going to go a little out of order, and I'll tell you about that a little later after we read one of our proclamations. So that'll be integrated as we go forward. So be seated, and we will call our commission meeting to order.
I know, I'm like...
Got to have a little routine change every now and then. You know, it's good for us.
It's good for everybody.
We are going to begin our meeting today with the RP Funding Center providing an update, and Tony Camarillo is going to make that presentation. So, Tony?
Good morning.
Good morning. And happy anniversary, your 25th.
Oh, thank you. 29 years.
29 years.
Lovely wife, Adele. Thank you very much. I'm not sure the commission or the city knows this, but when we do these presentations, we need to come up with a name for the presentation. So I came up with Lakeland's Event Center, the RP Funding Center. So I think with the things happening, Bonnet Springs right around us, a lot of great discussions about what's happening in the future. We are the center of that, and I feel strongly about that. And not only that, but we bring in hundreds of thousands of people to the city, and we serve as an area for a lot of good, positive things for the community, and we'll talk about a little bit of that today.
Excellent.
All right, as an introduction, again, we are the premier event and entertainment venue in the area. We serve the southeastern United States, Central Florida, Polk County, and of course, Lakeland. This year, our attendance was over 267,000 people and over 270 events, all types of events. And again, we'll talk through what those are here. But I think it's important to talk about our goals and objectives. Our goals are about revenue and growing our opportunities in the rental business. We talked a lot about that over the last year and a half. And I've discussed that after our run of self-promoted events through the end of March of 2023, our focus will be on rental events. We will continue to search out rentals for concerts, for other entertainment events, for the venue. So we still plan to be that entertainment venue. But we will shift the business model just a bit. And of course, our goal will always be to be reducing the subsidy. And we've done a really good job of that, again, over the last 2 to 3 years. And then one important thing to note, we are in the midst of working on our naming rights discussion. And we've had some of those discussions with the commissioners. And that is an ongoing discussion. Well, I don't have anything to report today specifically, but I think good things are happening. So I'm going to roll into some event highlights. And I started talking about events happening around August of last year. And Sean asked me, why August? And I said, well, that's really when events really started to happen. In-person, large events, what we do, what's our specialty, that's what happened. So they really started coming back in August. And one of the things that came is Paw Patrol. That's a family event. We had rental for quite a few weeks, over 3 weeks in our venue. They rented the building, they practiced their show, and unfortunately, due to COVID, they couldn't give us a public show, so we had to cancel that show. But it was kind of an idea, give you an idea that we were still kind of in a rough area there with COVID. So, but we've since come out of that. We had our first indoor lacrosse tournament. Jeff Foxworthy returned after many years to the RP Funding Center. And his comedy was mostly about COVID. And it kind of worked. He was alone with his wife, I guess, for a few months. And he got a lot of comedy out of that. So he was great. In October, we hosted a CrossFit competition, the Elite Cheer, Taekwondo event, and then Polk County Education stepping out for education. It was some controversy there. The third place couple, my wife and I, it's a little bit controversial. We came in third. I thought we should have came in first. But it was a great opportunity. It's an event we host every year, and we're very happy to serve Polk County with those types of events. November, the Magic and Tropics kicked off. We had a Rise Youth Christian concert that took place, and one of several Publix hiring events in one of our larger halls. So as we all know, at the end of last year, hiring was still an issue, and Publix did several events with us, large groups of people coming in, and they did their recruiting through that. And then, of course, we had Mannheim Steamroller in the theater, Always a great event that people love to come and see. Moving to November and December, we hosted the annual RP Funding Center City Staff Tree Decorating Contest, benefiting United Way of Central Florida. So I think this is our third year that we've been doing this. We raised $1,800. Parks and Recs came out on top, thanks to Bob Donahay's pocketbook. And I hope his wife is not listening, but he pushed them over the top. But always a great event. It gives us an opportunity to decorate the halls of the RP Funding Center for the holidays. We love the holiday cheer. I think some of the commissioners were there to do some reading, some children's books and things like that, so that's always a great event for us. The theater was busy with the comedian Bill Engvall, again, COVID comedy, seemed to have worked at that time. We had the ESPY Awards, not ESPN, but a different ESPY Awards. We had Broadway shows, Buddy Holly and Hairspray, Cirque Musica, and the annual Nutcracker Show, which is, again, with us every year in one iteration or the other. We hosted Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, in the arena, and he performed to a near sellout crowd in the arena, and that is a rental event, so we hope to have that event back. Every couple of years, he comes back to the area and does a wonderful job and draws really well. In January and February, it wasn't until then that we really started to have full capacity events. That's when really things started to click. Some of the events that took place was Rent. Marie Osmond came to the theater, Champions of Magic, classic albums live in our theater as well. Other annual events, again, starting to come back. These are things that maybe took a year off, but we're coming back for return. Primerica, G&L Wholesalers, the Economic Forecast Breakfast, Central Florida Comic-Con, Polk Education Foundation, Teacher of the Year Awards, Kaiser Graduation, kind of got back into the graduation business around this time, and the Bigfoot Conference returned for its second time and did a great job. We also had an event called Showtime Fighting Championships. It's an MMA event in our arena, and that took place in February, and that was streamed globally. So what a wonderful thing for Lakeland to go global with that fighting championship. Then in March through July, we really hit our stride. This is kind of our busy season, and this is when I felt, and I'm sure my staff felt, like we were kind of getting back to normal. FHSA High School Girls and Boys Basketball Tournament came back strong. Our graduations for Polk County High Schools, McKeel Academy, Digital Academy, Florida Polytechnic, Southeastern, Florida Southern, and Polk State. And I think there's a few I'm leaving out, but we are certainly the place for graduations. We also hosted about 25 cheer and dance competitions starting in March and going through June. The average profit for those events is about $25,000. So they're great events for us. They really draw well, and they bring from people outside the community, which I think is super important to us as we move forward. Entertainment include Blue Man Group, Menopause the Musical, another really highly attended event. The Price is Right, Teresa Caputo, Theo Vaughn, more Broadway and more classic albums. The balance of the events was Miss Florida, the Sewing and Quilting Expo, another highly attended event. Florida State's Science and Engineering event for the school systems. Harlem Globetrotters, U.S. Foods, and Polk County All Sports Awards. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we are a regional draw, and we are a place for regional events. I want to highlight some of those events. WWE came to the arena to a huge crowd. We haven't had them. We had them on the books for several times during COVID, but didn't quite work out. So the WWE is a great event to have and draws really well in Lakeland here. We had the Rotary District Conference. We had Rotarians from all around the area. The U.S. Trampoline and Tumbling Nationals. They came. They had a wonderful time. A great competition. We hope to have this event back in the future and some of the other events that they're associated with. When you can bring people from out of the community for a U.S. championship, that's really something that's special. And then the American Cornhole Championships. Those weekend warriors know that that's a growing sport, and we had them, and they were live on ESPN as well. Another great event. Now I want to move on to some of our operations departments, some of their accomplishments, some of the things that we've been doing over the year to make our venue better. Operations oversaw our restroom renovations, the final project in our overall renovation plan. I think Most of you have been there with the new restrooms, and we're very proud of them. They are mostly in our public areas of the meeting space, and we're totally updated with new finishes, lighting, fixtures, and we're all made ADA compliant. This is something we're working on now all the time. And here, this slide here shows you our much-needed new curtain for the arena. With the flexibility to be hung anywhere in the arena, complete with the new rigging system. Again, this is one of those things that offers us flexibility. The drapes and the rigging can be used in other areas of the building, but again, this is something that's important to our future events. There was a curtain up there that was sort of in the same place all the time. This curtain in particular gives us the flexibility to move it wherever it's needed in the arena, so it's very, very good for our business. We also took the opportunity to enhance our AV streaming capabilities with new equipment to help customers stream their content in this post-COVID world. There's still that need. We feel like it's important for us to have the equipment to do it and do it right, so we now have that. And we continued our commitment to clean facility protocols with the GBAC STAR certification. That's a certification we earn through the Global Biorisk Advisory Council. It's one of those certifications that many of our other venues around the country are also taking part in and have that distinction, so we think it's very important to business moving forward. Moving on to our event services department. These are the event managers. These are the people you see running around helping the events. They're your main contact when you come to the building. We replaced staff in the event services department with some staff that left us, whether it was through retirement or just moving on. Our new employees, Paige Miseral, she actually is a transfer from operations department, so that was kind of building growth from within, and we're really proud of the things that Paige has done. She's really hit the ground running. We're very happy about that. Samantha Davis, a new hire, and Caitlin Desmond, another new hire. These are some young staff, and we're very excited for them to step in and, again, sort of hit the ground running. They did a well job. Actually, Caitlin was our intern, so we moved her over. And we are excited to be able to help people move up and move on in our department, in this department. Again, this department also helps in the sales process. I think it's important to note that I've said this before. When an event happens for 2 years in a row, it moves to this department, and they're responsible for rebooking it. And they actually do a really great job of it. They have booked over 50% of repeat business from one year to the next, and that's a really great thing. I think 60% was at our high at one point, but coming out of COVID, it's understandable. So I see good things with the repeat business, just looking at those numbers. And after those 2 years, the sales staff can continue to focus on new business. So that's the important thing. So we pass it on to the event services staff, and then our sales team can focus on new business. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Dana Walker is our senior event manager. We're very proud of Dana. She graduated from IAVM's Venue Management School on her way to a distinction as a certified venue professional. That's an important distinction in our industry, so we're proud of that. She also attended the national conference, and she secured a scholarship to go to that conference. I believe it was in Las Vegas. She did that on her own, again, just shows the ability of staff to be thinking outside the box with that. Our marketing department, I'm going to throw some numbers at you. Some of you may understand some of this, some of you may not, but I think it's important to note that we do track these numbers, and it is something we look at, and we have some members of our marketing team, and Jason Refferment included, who's sitting right here helping me with this. Over the past 3 years, we've averaged over 220 events with 215 in attendance and an average of a $50 million economic impact. Again, that's over 3 years. So you're talking the COVID year mixed in. So good, strong numbers, things that we obviously will be building on. And if you remember at the beginning, we're ahead of that this year, above that average. Strong data, including our venue email with 200,000 members receiving 7.3 emails. Commissioners, you should know that because you're all in that email list, so hopefully you're getting those emails and you're seeing what's going on and hopefully attending. With promoted events, these events that we've been doing for many, many years, we've spent over $880,000 in paid advertising, not including what some of our partners or the rental events have spent. So if you have an event like Fluffy, who was a rental, they would be advertising on their own. So this is only what we spend on our promoted events. The marketing of our events provided over 20 million impressions on Facebook, Spectrum Cable, radio, Google, and again, this does not include what our partners have done. So those are rental events do most of that marketing on their own. More marketing stats. Our website analytics. Again, some of you may understand it, some of you may not, but I think the numbers are pretty strong. Over 371,000 users, over 491,000 sessions, over 368,000 new users, and over 1.8 million page views. So this will likely reduce when we stop promoting our own events, but we'll find ways of helping our rental events. And I'm hoping to get some money into the budget to be able to continue to drive this kind of data in the year. So that'll be a strategy we're looking at moving forward. It'll be a little bit new for us, but it definitely will be something that we'll be looking to do. And finally, grassroots efforts, always important, including press releases, website listings, email blasts, marquee listings. Hopefully when you're driving by the RP Funding Center, you'll see our marquee with all our events, media posts, TV ads, flyer posting, and marketing tables. Now moving on to our sales department. Well, our director, Lauren Hatton, has hired a new sales associate, Noah Morano. Another young gentleman filled a vacant position. So that is not a new position, it's a vacant position was filled. Our team continues to work closely with Visit Central Florida, which is Polk Marketing and Tourism, and that team there, a very strong commitment to us as we try to build business. Participation in a lot of industry events that are really sales events for us. And I list some of those here, but RCMA in particular, religious conference, I think is a really important market for us to go after, and then Florida Association of Executives, which FSAE. All of these events we take place in from a marketing standpoint, and this is where we get business, so we're going to continue to build on that as well. And just an important thing to note, much of the funding for us to attend these events comes from the county. We get a stipend from them, about $50,000. That gives Lauren and Noah the ability to go on these events. So every year we assess what we think we need to attend, and the county is good enough to help us with that. And again, that's a great part of the partnership, and we're certainly going to continue that. Local networking events, of course, working with the Lakeland Chamber of Commerce, Bridge Local, Lakeland Hotel Motel Association. We also attend the TDC Marketing and Special Events Committee meeting. Bob Donahan and I are both sit on the Special Events Committee, and on the Sports and Special Events Committee. Both of us are on that committee. And I think some of the commissioners, Stephanie Madden's on the TDC as well, and I can't remember who else is involved, but get involved. And I wanted to bring up some of the new bookings that Lauren's working on. Jaina Convention, which is a large Indian convention, East Indian. That federation's coming in June and July of 2023. Florida Premier Gymnastics, April 24, and Hype Dance Competition in 2023. Again, that's new business. And when we talk about what the things that we want to bring in that are building that revenue, these are the kinds of events that we'll focus on. And they'll be great because they're bringing people into the community, they're staying at hotels, they're going to restaurants, and they're doing the things we like to see done for the community. And then there's some return bookings, and a lot of these will shift over to the event services staff in the future, but Stamp Fest, and one of the things I want to note real quick is we're trying to do multiple year bookings. So you'll see a lot of 23, 24, 25, 26, 24, 25. Stamp Fest, we host a large event for Legoland for their team in January. Lightning City Gymnastics, April 23, Turn It Up Dance, November 23 and 24. Diamond Cheer, March 23. World Shoot, which is a banquet award ceremony, October 24. Digital Academy of Florida in 2023. And then Florida Polytechnic, 23, 24, 25. So that's a newer graduation we're hosting. So we've got them locked in for 3 years, so proud of that. Moving on to Levy, our food service provider, our caterer. Levy added a sales and catering manager, Trevor Lowe. Trevor's been a fantastic add. Great attitude, good work ethic. He's got experience in sports, entertainment, and conventions. Again, that's on the Levy team. That's not our team. That's separate. And so he's helping us with our business from that perspective. And some of you may not have seen this. It happened, I think, about a month ago. They transformed our grill outside of Sykes to a Four Rivers barbecue stand. So it's branded that way. We feel like it's going to help sales. It looks amazing. And I think our guests will be really excited about it. In addition to Dipping Dots, we now have Cold Stone Creamery. So you have your traditional ice cream and your Dippin' Dots. So hopefully you'll come and enjoy that. And Levy continues to be flexible, offering things that maybe are a little bit different than the norm, but things like burrito bowls, vegan burgers, salads, and gyros are continuing to be things on the menu that they can hopefully give some flexibility. And that kind of wraps up a recap of the operational team and what they're doing. Right now I'd like to give you what we call our Sizzle Roll of our entertainment events coming up this season. And a special shout out to Scott Sloman, my assistant director, Scott here. He brings those events here. He's responsible for most of what you'll see up here. And then, of course, our marketing team for what they do, the production of this video, and a lot of other great things that they do. So let's show them what's happening. I hope that got you a little excited. We're certainly proud of the entertainment that we could bring to Lakeland. And there's some, do you want to put up that ticketing slide, Jason? Did you miss it? That's all right. You getting ahead of me or behind me? Whatever. So yeah, so go ahead and call us if you need tickets or are interested. You go to our website, rpfundingcenter.com, to see more of this. I think the video is up on the website as well. But we are here for you. I think it's important to note that we are going to be shifting the event model a little bit. The Broadway series, which is sometimes 4 to 6 Broadway shows a year, we won't be putting on the series, but we'll continue to bring entertainment like it. It could be even be a Broadway type show. The difference would be is we're going to hopefully have some of those events rent the building versus us promoting it ourselves. Just a more a way of building revenue a little bit differently. And just to give you an idea of something like Shen Yun, which we've had for many years, that's a rental, does really well for us. Teresa Caputo, she was here and she does really well. And again, that's a rental type event. And Fluffy, like I mentioned earlier, a comedian in the arena, draws really well. Those are rental type events. So we'll continue to focus on those types of events moving forward to continue to bring in the entertainment that we think is important for the community. I wanted to just really quickly, as a wrap-up, call attention to the RP funding staff. It's something I always talk about and do. Like many others, obviously, we've been through a lot over the last 3 years with COVID. We were the only department that had furloughed during that time as well. And so a lot of other uncertainties over the last few months. But I can tell you that they never wavered in their dedication to their jobs, as you can see by that last few months of events, we've done really well, and we'll continue to build on that. And I just want to thank them, some of them are here, for all their dedication and hard work, continued dedication and hard work moving forward. And I couldn't do what I do without them, so thank you to the RP Funding Center staff. Thank you. That's all I got for you today, unless you have questions.
Well, first of all, that's a great wrap up, and you can leave that other slide up of how you get your tickets, because I'm a closer, and so and it's interesting because when you look at all of the different programs that were included, it makes me, first of all, feel very uncultured because we've had a wide breadth of some of those things, and so compliments to your team.
Thank you.
There's been some questions from organizations like Classic Albums Live, and comments on any of that?
Well, Classic Albums Live in particular, it is something we'd like to continue doing all of it. Obviously, we think it's we've been a strong advocate for the arts and bringing those types of things, live concerts, Broadway. We think it's important, but we'll have to find a way to do it. I think with Classic Album Live in particular, the last show that we hosted. Somebody from Classic Albums Live told them they weren't coming back. And in fact, we do have dates in the books. Yeah. And what we've told the folks that have questioned about that is that we're going to continue to find a way to try to do it. We're outwardly looking for a sponsor for the event, if we can find it. And we've re-engaged with the radio station across the street from us to try to get them to help us promote. So we have some things we're working on, and again, although they are in the books for future, it's a work in progress, is what I'd like to say.
And it's a good example of the fact there has to be some participation too in helping you reduce the subsidy in some of these things. And so thank you for that, and thank you for trying to make it work on both sides of the equation.
Sure.
Comments from other commissioners? Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tony, for the update. It's always helpful to get a recap and be reminded of all the things that you and your staff are working on. And as you talk about shifting the model to more rental events and conventions, sporting championships, what's the ideal or target number of events you would like to have every year? And then a second question, when those events go to another venue, what are some of the reasons people might go elsewhere?
Well, we have actually a pretty strong retention for business. Some events just naturally will go from one event venue to the other just because they need to move around from a conference standpoint. Like we probably wouldn't do the district for Rotary again for maybe 4 or 5 years. We have, I think one of our strong suits is our location. That's a reason why people do come and will continue to come back. As far as the number of events, I think we're at 260 this last year. Anywhere from 250 to 350, I think will be the strong target for us. But yeah, I think I don't. Some of the local events, some catering events, we're working through some pricing issues with Levy. But from what I've started to do on our side is what can we help with on our side so that they can find a way to afford the food pricing, because food pricing's gone up. I mean, we've all been to restaurants. Everything's more expensive. It's not an excuse. It's the truth. So we're trying to find ways, if we can do something on our end to help, if we can give them a little break on rent maybe, we can ensure that we'll have those events moving forward. So it's a constant. We know what our target margins are, so we can play with it a little bit. But I'm confident. We've had a lot of great events over just the past year since Levy's been on board, and they love the service and the food. There's some returning events that we're still working through some of the pricing on, but we'll get through it.
Thank you.
Other comments, Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Camarillo, for the update, especially so because what we as a commission had asked you to do, or as far as knowing that the subsidy that we have been seeing for years, of course, now to hope to be decreased as things change in the business model that you're going with. Are we still able to do, I know over the years, when we have we put in a bid for the various state of Florida games, we call it, with
championships,
volleyball, all the championship stuff. Volleyball.
Yeah, actually, matter of fact, again, that's one of the things we work with Polk County Tourism Sports Marketing. We have the girls and boys basketball. We'll have weightlifting for girls and boys coming up, and we're targeting volleyball for the future. I don't think that's a secret, but we're going to continue. We want to be the center for state sports championships. So we'll continue to go after that. I think volleyball actually might be happening at one of the local colleges, but cheerleading is one of the other ones we'll go after. But again, these are the types of events that bring people to the community and make Lakeland, the important center of the state. So we're going to continue to go after that business.
And of course, I think some years ago, when you presented, as you was coming on to being our new exec director of the center and all, there was this proposal as how we were going to change the face so much of the interior design and add to the center itself as well. We chose to move another way. And I want to make sure that the public understands that we made that choice because of that cost factors involved. Sure. But we did some things inside the interior that you had shared with us through those pictures of renovating restrooms and those kind of things to bring this up to date somewhat. So I'm happy to see we did do those things and help, liven up the place, spruce up the place because of what needed to be done, and especially when it comes to when you come in, lighting, and help support those physically impaired, because of the situations that we dealt with, that old way of having the center look. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other comments? I want to compliment you on a good response to the hard request to try and reduce the subsidy and the team's efforts to get this done and the path that's been forged going forward, and encourage them all, and you as well, in that, because those dollars are dollars that we can then use for the taxpayers for other things, and that's what we're always trying to work to minimize. And so thank you too very much, City Manager, for working alongside him in that process of that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would just like to, recognize Tony and Scott and staff because we've been in this thing together. We think we've come up with a model that will meet the goal that has been set for us, and we will continue to provide those events and cultural activities that Tony has referenced for this community. We believe we can do that as efficiently and effectively as anyone else in the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That allows us to have a wonderful presentation. Kevin Cook is going to take this, and his microphone that's being turned on right now is right here, sir. Yes, that's right.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Cook. I'm Director of Communications for the City of Lakeland, and I'm here for a check presentation. We're blessed to have the Mims family present. Let me tell you a little story first before I ask them to come up. In 2009, the City of Lakeland, we lost our sponsor for Red, White, and Kaboom. That's our July 3rd, our big fireworks and Independence Day celebration that we do here at Lake Mirror in downtown. And we brought it over in 1999. We're having some construction at Tigertown, so we brought that event over to Lake Mirror in 1999, and it was very popular, so we started doing the fireworks show July 3rd, known as Red, White, and Kaboom, and then we also had the fireworks display at Tigertown on July 4th, on Independence Day. Well, in 2009, we lost our title sponsor, and the event was going to go away. But graciously, the Mims family, and especially T Mims Corp., came on as a sponsor, and they've been sponsoring it ever since. So that's 13 years. We're very appreciative. And if I could get Tom, Paula, and Patrick to come up. Yeah, then hand me that thing. Gracias. Thank you.
Communications, they have all the props. Thank you.
I know, right? So this is just a little token. I know when we visit your office and we talk about sponsorship, and we talk about the events, I see the posters around, and you guys have they have a beautifully decorated and appointed office. But I just got them a little something that hopefully you can hang on the walls, and that's the poster from this year, and then a picture that I took on my iPhone without a filter. It's one of the better pictures that we had of the fireworks. So I just wanted to share that with you guys this year. And please, I'd love to see it in the office when I visit again. And now just a few
Very,
words.
very nice.
Nice.
Well, I want to thank the City Commission for allowing this to happen. We have an incredible opportunity to work with staff, the Lakeland Police Department that provides incredible security for us during the event, the Communications Department, as well as Parks and Rec. I can tell you we have an incredible Parks and Rec department here at the City of Lakeland, and we just want to thank you. VISTI is such an important part of this community and essential, and we are so grateful that they're here, and we're grateful that we can have an event like this that helps support VISTI as well. So thank you, Kevin, for everything.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask Steve Bissonette with VISTI to come up. And Patrick, if you would, behind you, we have the ceremonial check. So what we do is, with the sponsorship, it helps pay for the fireworks, the portalets, and all the things that we need to have a successful event. But what we do is we bring food trucks down for the event, and we had a really good year of proceeds from the food trucks this year. So after we do a profit and loss statement at the end of the event, and we had $2,889.50 left over in the account. And so what we do with that every year, if we've got any money left over, we present a check to VISTI, because we use Red, White, and Kaboom as a can drive and as a donation drive for VISTI. So I'll let the Mims family present the check, and then Steve, if you have any words.
Well, Steve, as I said, you guys just do an amazing job for the community, and we want to thank you for being a part of it. It's incredible. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And we're just very excited to be able to continue this partnership. And obviously, the celebration is for independence for our country. We see it as being a very elegant tie to our efforts to provide safety and independence for the seniors in our community that are in need of help. So this money, like the canned food, this will go to help provide supplemental groceries to those in need throughout our community. So thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to have the opportunity to move to our Beautification Awards, and Bill Cohen is going to present those for us, a residential and commercial winner each month. And so, William, we'd love to have you reveal the names.
Thank you. I think first up will be the Residential Award. It goes to this beautiful house on Lake Parker. It's actually being presented to Judy A. Jalbert at 1202 West Lake Parker Drive. The house has had massive renovations on it, a new roof and all kinds of improvements, but you really can't see the garden in this picture. Behind the house, there's a large garden with a low wooden fence around. There's all kinds of tropicals and beautiful plants in that garden. So it's a really good job, and the place looks great. Is anyone here today to receive the award?
There's a hand back there.
Come on down.
Yeah, come on down. Oh, they'd like you to step up there.
Any comments you'd like to make on the home?
It's a labor of love with accent on labor.
Did you have a large tree in the front yard at one time?
Yes, it had to come down. It was dying.
Yes, okay, because that's what I recall in front of the house. Beautifully done, though. Thank you. So you hold that up, we'll take a quick picture.
Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Okay, next will be the Commercial Award. And this goes to a project that was originally called Reserve at Lakeland Square, located at 1906 Griffin Road. The new name, I believe, is the Caroline Apartments. And if you drive down Griffin Road, you really can't see the scope of this project. You see the beautiful community room there with a beautiful pool and one of the apartment buildings, but you drive down a path through some wetlands, And there are massive buildings back in there. There must be hundreds of units in this apartment complex, some carriage houses and very upscale apartment complex. One of the interesting things about the beauty of this project, though, there is a wetland that was preserved, and they've actually added a curved boardwalk through the wetlands, so you get actually some natural beauty on this project. So it's a really, you just can't see the scope of this thing driving down Griffin Road. It's a massive project. So is anyone here to receive this award?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. I want you to step up there.
We'll have to do some drone footage of this sometime, you know. Take a look at, on some of these massive ones, that's what we'll add to this. Any comments?
Well, it's a beautiful property. We love it. It is nice.
Thank you so much.
Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, right here. All right, perfect. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just for reference sake, if, I know Mr. Cohen mentioned, you can't see pretty much what has happened there on that piece of property off Griffin Road, but if you go Mall Hill Drive, take that route to, in the rear off Kathleen Road, where you go to the Toyota dealership, that kind of thing.
Right.
You can see, like you said, all of it. Now, you won't see all the things that the young lady mentioned about the property, so when you walk, you have to walk through the wetlands, but if you drive in the back with Mall Hill Drive, you can see all those beautiful units, hundreds of units, as he
It's
mentioned.
quite a project, to say the least, yeah. Okay, I think I got one more slide up here today. Oh, we want to do a thank you to our Rose Garden volunteers. As many of you may know, roses are quite a labor-intensive project. So we have at least a dozen volunteers that do all the deadheading, or most of our deadheading for us, like cutting off the dead blooms, which is extremely labor-intensive. We have like 17 locations where we have roses around the city. So we definitely need the help, and if anyone would like to volunteer, we definitely use more help on this project. I have to deal with the spraying and fertilizing of the roses, and basically what can go wrong will go wrong with a rose. There's so many diseases, spider mites, insect problems, so we certainly appreciate our volunteers. We couldn't do this without them, so I think there's one lady that's 93 years old that does them almost every day over at the public library, so I have some very dedicated volunteers. Okay.
So it's an appreciation of and a solicitation for more, right?
Yes, we could definitely use them because, you know, our staff is limited and that's very labor intensive to go out there and do all that snipping all the time, you know. So anyway, we got some of the new, we got the new Brenda Bella roses that came in from Australia. And also we have many of the Downton Abbey roses that just came in from England. So our Rose Garden program is pretty much on the top level right now, we think. They're all over the place anyways, you can see them for yourself. So, all right, well, thank you.
Thank you for your great work on all of that, Bill. And one round of applause for our Parks and Recs and City Manager Strauss would like to do an introduction.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take a moment to make a few comments about our city staff. After about a 3-year delay in being able to come together as a city work family to celebrate our employees, we could not do that over the last 3 years because of the COVID conditions that we were in. But last week we had the opportunity to come together as a work family out at Lake Parker to celebrate our employees. And so even though we were able to do that sort of privately out there, I just wanted to take a moment publicly to thank and recognize all of our city employees who have worked through some very difficult conditions over these past 3 years, many of which had to risk themselves and their health during the COVID conditions to make sure that we were providing services to this community. And so I want to thank the mayor and the commissioners who were able to attend. I want to thank the departments who helped put on a great event last week, Communications, Public Works, Parks and Recreation, our Facilities Division, all did a fantastic job to recognize. And so I personally want to thank each and every one of our public servants who work here at the City of Lakeland for the job that they have done and recognize them for their continued support of this community. And in the spirit of that, I also want to recommend or recognize 3 individual employees that we have with us here today who have recently completed the Certified Public Manager Program. That is a program that is put on by the Florida Center of Public Management, which is part of the Askew School at Florida State University. It's a nationally recognized leadership development program for public managers. It consists of 32 days of classroom instructions. There is homework. There are also other assignments and exams that are included. The homework assignments and exams supplement the course content and require the students to apply the course concepts not only to themselves, but to this agency here at the City of Lakeland, which only makes us stronger and better. So if I could ask our 3 employees who are here with us this morning to just please stand. I want to recognize Kirk Bowlerice, who works in the water utility, Jessica Schilling in Public Works, and Cindy Marsh in Human Resources. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Hey, let's, come on up.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful achievement and very, very valuable for us. Do all these other pictures, you know, we got to do this as well.
Thank you.
All right, ready? That's 3, 2, 1. Wait, help. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, our change in format today is intentional, and it is because this is the declaration we're going to make of the Star-Spangled Banner Day, and I'm going to read that proclamation in a few minutes, and Sheila Tyndall, President of the United Daughters of the Confederacy, is going to come up and receive that with anyone she would like to have as well. And then we're also going to have Keith Marr, following the reading of the proclamation, sing the Old Ragged Flag, which we haven't done in a commission meeting. And I think you'll find the moving story of that. And Keith has done this throughout the country. He's certainly made it, sung this locally. Keith's from Lakeland. He is a Christian country artist and is known for his ability to do this so well. And his faithfulness and his heartfelt message will help to augment how important that is for us as we go forward. And I think, and by the way, the commission would receive packets that have CDs of the Old Ragged Flag and a love story about a hometown, which is a separate song he wrote about Lakeland. So we're going to have all of you come up, and I'll read the proclamation. So Sheila and Keith, come on up as well. And before I read the proclamation, if you'd like to make any statement, you can. Would you?
It's quite an honor to be here, and I'm so proud that so many people are here to witness this proclamation.
Well, the presentation that I'm going to make here in just a couple of minutes, I don't mind telling you the first time that I heard it, I was on the way to work and I had to pull off the road and get off the road because I got to crying so bad I could not see to drive. And it's right on my heart. So I hope that when the time comes, you will lend me your ears, lend me your mind, and lend me your heart as I share that story with you.
Well, and I think this is important because we are a city that respects our heritage. Part of what we are going to remember when we read this proclamation and hear that song are the unity that comes from understanding our nation's purpose and the cost, the sacrifice that has been made by so many people in the process of that. And it's easy to say, oh, here's another one of those proclamations. We want your hearts to all pause for the difference in this today and the soberness in it all. So let me read about our national anthem, which is the Star-Spangled Banner, its history. Whereas Vice Admiral Alexander Cochrane ordered British naval ships to commence firing upon Fort McHenry as the sun rose on the horizon on September 13, 1814, and Fort McHenry was one of the last lines of defense for the city of Baltimore in Baltimore Harbor, further noting that if the fort were captured, Baltimore would also fall. Heightened apprehension existed since Washington, D.C. had burned just a month earlier, and the subsequent capture of Baltimore would cause the just-formed United States to lose two major coastal cities. These two cities were financial and political strongholds, and without them, Britain could claim victory for the entire war. And whereas the National Society, United States Daughter of 1812, called for a day to observe the historical significance of the Star-Spangled Banner, the Cedar Valley, is that right? Yes. Cedar Valley Volunteers Chapter appealed to Mayor Kalb for a proclamation, and whereas in September of 1814, Francis Scott Key penned a poem that eventually became the national anthem of the United States of America, the Star-Spangled Banner, as he watched the American flag fluttering proudly over Fort McHenry, signifying an American victory. And during the War of 1812, state of Maryland led a campaign to make the Star-Spangled Banner the nation's official anthem. Eventually, a bill passed in the House of Representatives on April 21st, 1930. And whereas Jacques Lynn Amon Schulman, president of the National Society United States Daughters of 1812, stated, "The United States Daughters of 1812 provide a dynamic and patriotic membership dedicated to increasing the knowledge of the history of America's Second War for Independence. Their work made it possible to sustain the lyrics and music of a national anthem that would otherwise have been lost. And whereas many people have no idea that the words 'and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there,' are actual observations made during the War of 1812, providing continuing hope with each glistening highlight by the flag. And whereas Congress passed an act in March 1931 confirming President Woodrow Wilson's presidential order, which was signed on March 3rd by President Herbert Hoover, making it law by designating the Star-Spangled Banner as the official United States national anthem. We remember America's Second War of Independence by celebrating the American spirit every time we sing this great national anthem with deserved passion. Now, therefore, I, H. William Mutz, City of Lakeland Mayor, and on behalf of the entire Commission, do hereby proclaim September 14th, 2022 as the Star-Spangled Banner Day in Lakeland, Florida, and witness whereof I have set my seal." And so with that, I want to make sure that you get your copy of this. And, oh, thank you very much. And then furthermore, Keith, I have a copy of it for you. And I have one more line in it before I give it to you, which is, "In order to uniquely celebrate this rich American history on September 6th, 2022, during the City of Lakeland Commission meeting, Keith Marr honored attendees by singing his passionate rendition of the Ragged Old Flag, originally written by Johnny Cash. And after he's singing, we'll stand for the pledge." Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for making it possible. Thank you. Oh, photo first, yes. Absolutely.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you. There you go, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I walked into a county courthouse square. On a park bench, an old man was sitting there. I said, "Your courthouse is kind of run down." He said, "No, it'll do for our little town." And I said, "That flagpole leans quite a bit, and it's a ragged old flag you've got hanging on it." He said, "Sit down. Is this the first time that you've been to our little town?" And I said, "I think it is." And he said, "Well, I don't like to brag, but we're mighty proud of that ragged old flag." You see, we got a little hole in that flag there when Washington took it across the Delaware. And it got powder burned the night that Francis Scott Key sat watching it writing "Say, can you see?" And it got a bad rip in New Orleans with Packingham and Jackson tugging at its seams. Oh, and she almost fell at the Alamo beside the Texas flag, but she waved on though. She got cut with a sword at Chancellorsville. She got cut again up on Gettysburg Hill. There were Generals Robert E. Lee, Beauregard, and Bragg, and the south wind blew hard on that ragged old flag. On Flanders Field in World War I, she got a big hole from a Bertha gun. She turned crimson red in World War II. She hung limp and low a time or two. On the Normandy beaches, she got dirty and splotchy, and she was dripping with blood when those 6 Marines raised her up on top of Mount Suribachi. She went to Korea and Vietnam. She went where she was sent by her Uncle Sam. She waved from our ships upon the briny foam, and now she's about quit waving back here at home. In her own dear land, she's been abused, she's been burned, desecrated, denied, and refused, and the government for which she stands is scandalized throughout the land. She's getting threadbare, and she's wearing thin, but she's in good shape for the shape she's in. So she's been through the fire before, and I think she can take a whole lot more. So we raise her up in the morning, we take her down at night, we never let her touch the ground, and we fold her up right. On second thought, by golly, I do like to brag, because I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag.
Thank you, sir. Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can be seated. Yes, sir. I put it on that shelf right there, Keith. And thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. There it is. We have no committee and reports at this meeting. We have an approval of the minutes if there is a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. And I'm wanting to make sure, yeah, and that's the minutes only because there are no other asterisk items. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. All right? We're good there? All right. Then we have an opportunity to have 4 requests to appear from the general public. And I'm going to move past the first one because I don't see Carrie in the room yet. So Dr. Sally Brisbane, if you could be up, that would be great. Thank you. She's going to give us an update on the well. And so we were so excited about your initial year of progress.
Is it a clicker or am I?
Did you?
Advance the slide. Here, backwards there.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for the opportunity to give you an update on the well. I find it very befitting to have this opportunity on today in particular, because as the meeting has evolved, there are so many things that just point to why the well is such an integral part of our community and why the work has already been laid and the foundation has been laid. So I'm going to just simply carry on as it has already been done. And what I have before you is the current look of the building. And I want you to see there that there is a sign. And that sign was erected on last week. And we are super excited. It looks wonderful. And for those who may not realize that it's an actual exclamation point. And so I think that's very befitting that the well is making a statement. There will be a light behind the words of the well, so stay tuned, that's coming up. But I wanted to kind of just advance forward for those who may not be familiar, or I think everyone here today may be aware and have heard some things about the well, but I thought it would be good to give you just a quick synopsis of a timeline as a part of this update. As you can see, in February, the concept was approved. Actually, on February 1st, I remember it clearly because it's my daughter's birthday. So it was just a great birthday surprise present to have the concept approved on February 1st, 2018. June 2020, there was a revision, and some of that had to do with the previous building that was there. As you can see in the top picture, that's the old retail lighthouse building that was previously there before this building was built from the ground up. And it had some structural damage and some other things going on. So there was a revised proposal that was approved in June. And then February 2021 was the groundbreaking. And I wanted to kind of paint, I'm a visual person, so I wanted to give some pictures in terms of how this all kind of rolled out. So there you see me standing on the grounds with the picture of the building for, I think, a local media article that was done. And then the one below it, I just thought that was a great picture, even though some of the individuals there are no longer with the city. Our construction manager and the Mr. Corey from Miller Construction, myself, and of course Aaron Banks, who was the architect. That's just a great picture there. And then you can see it somewhat being erected. But December 2021, we got keys. And then we had our grand opening in January. The reason I put the purpose here is because this was pulled exactly out of the proposal. And I want to draw your attention to what the purpose of the well is. And of course, you know the definition of a purpose, but straight out of that proposal document that you all approved, it said a business center to be used for office and collaborative workspace, as well as for provision of educationally focused resources for small businesses. And that has been the impetus of what the well has strived, and I believe has been successful up to this point in doing. But let's move forward. Since January 21st, we have had over 70 events which meet the criteria of what we consider to be impactful. With impact meaning having a significant effect on someone or something, by touching, shaping, changing, transforming, or influencing. And so the following slides, I would like to just share with you how we've been able to make that impact, because it's very important as we look at the overarching concept and idea of what Lakeland is and how Lakeland has grown in the surrounding community from I-4 to Polk County as a whole. We come to know that we are probably, or may still be, the second fastest growing city in the United States. That speaks volumes. And also number 7 on the top 10 for African American professionals. Those are significant key statistics that help us to realize that the well, as a community conduit, a community hub, a space for people to gather, as its name implies, also has a priority and emphasis towards working with the underserved and the underrepresented, women, veterans, minorities, those who maybe face barriers because of their gender or their age. So here are just a few highlights that I pulled. I could do a bunch of them, but I thought these were significant. See here on the left, the B2B Blender is a signature well event. And this gentleman, is that my time?
Yeah, but you have 2 more minutes now.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, go.
These are events that are coming up that we've had. The B2B Blenders one, our Lunch and Learn series, National Coalition of National, I thought that went backwards. Anyway, I'm nervous. The UNCF, the Scholarship Fund, you have a PowerPoint so you can see, art exhibit, our Unlimited Jazz series, open mic, book signings, all of these are things. Mid-Florida is one of our major supporters, has been and will continue to be. The Kiwanis Club, Women's Resource Center, the League of Women Voters, all of these, the Solidarity Committee, all of these organizations, National Night Out, and you can see those were some very important pieces. Her Story, which supports women. Those are things, there's still a lot more to be done, and I'll end with this one. There is much work to be done, and the well is poised with how can we continue to support the funding and the financial hardships that are faced by many small businesses, including us. What do we need? We need funding. We need grant opportunities. We need in-kind support. We need technical assistance. All of those are things that will help to generate what we know as a disparity among small businesses, particularly women, which is what that slide is talking about. And then these are some things that could help the solution. Hopefully you'll get a chance to go back. I won't take a minute any more time, but the ask is simply this: we need support, we need help, and these are some of the things that I am currently involved in. I could probably do 2 pages, but I put this slide in here for you to see that, you know, it's all about what we can do to make Lakeland a great place to live and to work and to play. And all of these areas that I'm involved in have a strong influence on me, and I do believe that we can advocate and engage.
Thank you very, very much.
Questions?
Any questions at all from the commissioner or comments? Yes, Commissioner Music.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Stone. I appreciate it. I'm glad to see that you guys were able to come here and present. So how are you guys doing on, you know, budgeting? I mean, obviously there's always an ask, right? Anytime we're talking about nonprofit, I mean, that's the, you know, you start with the ask, you end with the ask, and the ask is in the middle, right? I mean, but how are you guys doing, and how are people finding you? I mean, obviously we went through these pretty quickly,
right?
But how are people getting a hold of you? Are you seeing that people are coming to you saying, wow, I didn't know you were here? Yes. Or are they, you know, talk to me just a little bit about that if you could.
Sure, that's a great question. And all of that does kind of speak to the need to have more opportunity for presence, and that is what we're working on. But many of the people that are coming to us have seen us in collaboration with, and I often say the well works best in collaboration with. So as we continue to work with local organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, and those organizations who have a strong goal and desire to make the community a better place, we are reaching a broad number of people. And they also find us on our Facebook. Of course, our social media is one of the things, but we could do a lot better with more funding, more support in kind, more opportunity to have a collaborative work relationship with many of the departments. We've talked with, I know several people here in the room, and currently staff for the well is myself and the support of my very faithful husband, Mario. So, you know, any given day, it is who we are and what we do, but we love it. But your question and your comments speak very much to the need for having some, there are some opportunities coming down the road. We do believe that hopefully there will be some funding support that hasn't transpired as of yet. So we continue to push, continue to ask and ask and ask again. So hopefully that answered your question.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes, Commissioner
Hi,
Carley.
Dr. Stone, one of my favorites. So the well is a 501c3, correct?
No, the well is a for-profit. It is, but it does have a nonprofit arm called Friends of the Well. And so the for-profit is the model that the CRA works with. This public-private partnership was able to be created because we are a for-profit.
Okay. And can you just talk a little bit about the Friends of the Well, just real quick?
Absolutely. So our tagline is, we are your business and culture connection. And so we want to make sure that we look at how we evolve as a community as it relates to business. But we understand that culture speaks very much to how we do business. And so the Friends of the Well is poised with being that culturally culture and arts piece of what we do. And so being able to connect with, for example, we are excited about a possible project that's gonna evolve around working on a project with Florida Southern and Ms. Madden, and I've spoken to several people, I don't see Ms. Mims, and several others about the highwaymen. And so just using that as an example, many people don't understand what the highwaymen did and how they were able to bring a rich level of culture to our community. So not only does that extend as far as culturally relevant, it also extends into K-12. So students understand and know there were 126 African-American artists that changed the landscape here in Florida, as close as Fort Pierce. And there are many people here in our community that are involved in looking at art and culture and how it benefits our community.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again, Dr. Stone, for your presentation. Are you finding it challenging with your nonprofit to continue, or as you have begun, to have that collaborative effort with other entities within our city or scopes of what we need to get done and make sure that cultural kind of information is being shared or will be shared?
Yeah, that is a challenge, I would say, to some extent, but it is not something that can't be overcome. And so the goal is to continue to collaborate. You know, I can give you a long list of nonprofits that have come to the table and said, hey, what can we do to support? But I do think that there is a need for more collaboration in that particular area, particularly in underserved and underrepresented communities. That has to be something that we are intentional about in coming together to collaborate. And so that is one of the priorities as we move forward and looking at how can we continue to grow and the community of individuals coming together to support Lakeland and all of its enriched heritage and culture and diversity that we bring to the table.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Thank you very, very much. We appreciate your presentation
Thank you.
and the update, and keep up the good success. We are now going to move to Dorsmore Bailey regarding the African American Chamber of Commerce, who is asked to come before the commission. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
You can use either one.
Okay, I'll take this one. And I have these on. They are reading. I'm not trying to...
Distance yourself.
I'm not trying to be fashionable or anything this morning, but my reading glasses are on the way. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, City Attorney, and all those, everyone else in their respective position, and to the audience. I am Dorsmore Bailey. I am the president of the African American Chamber of Commerce, Polk County, and pleased to be here today. And each of you have received from me an email as it relates to President Biden's executive order 14050. You should have that. And I won't belabor the point by trying to read that, but it is a part of the document which I sent so it could be part of the city records. I am here today for, my slide is there, so I may get ahead of myself because, great.
Doris, this is how you advance this. Go backwards there, the big arrow, so you advance it.
Okay.
I'll be over here if you need it.
Okay. You know what, I think I will take the other side. Okay, so this is our mission statement. And so the mission statement of the African American Chamber of Commerce, Polk County, is to promote economic development, education, enrichment, and social connection for the Polk County African American business communities. And we're talking plural here. These are core values, and I don't think I need to read extensively, but I would state community, commerce, culture, and sustainability. And of course, now we talk about the Executive Order 14050, White House Initiative on Advancing Educational equity, excellence, and economic opportunities for, the word here is a color, but I'm going to say African American, that's my preference. And then the American Rescue Plan, ARP Act of 2021 is a $9.1 trillion economic stimulus bill passed by the 117th United States Congress and signed into law by President Biden on March 11, 2021. And of course, you're all aware of the 1.9 trillion, and then certain cities will receive their allocation of 300+ billion goes out to all the other cities. I won't go any further except to say one of the chambers for the African American chambers, 4 pillars, is to access capital. Capital access remains the most important factor, limiting the establishment, expansion, growth of the African American owned businesses. And of course, the chamber worked with financial institutions, in particular for African American owned businesses, to create avenue by which African Americans can gain greater access to credit, capital, and other financial instruments. And that's why I'm here today. And of course, again, it talks a little bit about the Executive Order 14050, I apologize, I was distracted thinking my glasses were on the way. But anyway, so you have this information. This is what I sent to each of you.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm not going to prolong my time by going through that. But just to give you a quick shot of where we were, we started May the 10th, 2019, and we established to provide service to disconnected, underserved, and marginalized businesses, primarily African Americans, and that was 2019. Then September 6, 2022 is where we are today, and I'm here to request a hand up, not a handout, according to the monies that are provided to the City of Lakeland. November the 2019, we had a very successful meet and greet, and then after that was COVID, and then we went into almost hibernation as the whole country did, basically the world did. And so, again, we did receive some CARES funds in 2020 from the county and used that. We hired a couple of students from Florida Southern College to do some work for us, to reach out to businesses and things of that nature who were basically working from their home for the most part because they don't have monies to go out and start up. And there are a couple of places we could refer them to and have done so. And so here we are lastly. What are people saying? Why bring outsiders in to do what we can do here ourselves? And I watched with great interest the presentation at the last meeting, the August 15th meeting. And so for those who are requesting ARP dollars from the City of Lakeland, from outside of Lakeland, Tampa and Brandon, if someone has been working in business and lived in Brandon for 27 years, I'm wondering why haven't they approached Brandon for ARP dollars? So my question today for the Chamber as the President of the Chamber and its members, what is the city's vision for inclusion of the African American Chamber of Commerce? And again, I referred that to President Biden's Executive Order 14050, Economic Opportunity for African Americans. That ends that. There was 10 slides. Now, I had some information that I wanted to share, but again, Murphy's Law has interceded, so hopefully I can talk about this. The question remains today, what can we do to collaborate with the city and the city with the African American Chamber of Commerce as it relates to the request of...
2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes left?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wow. Okay, so the ask is, and you have received my emails, I hope, requesting the $450,000. And so you might say, well, you've never managed that kind of monies before. And I want to be clear when I say, and that is true, but then we have our sister chamber to the east of us, Central Florida African American Chamber of Commerce, who can do that for us. We also have a connection. Since last year, we have been having presentations made by the Black Business Investment Funds, totally different from BBIC. Those are two separate organizations. And they do that. That's what they do. Or we can also reach out to HBCU to do that. So we have avenues, agencies available to handle the funds for us. So that aside, we would like to present to you at a later time and date the budget outline based upon, the dollar amount requested and what we're planning to do with the dollar amount that we have requested. I think each of you have received that information also as it relates to what we'd like to do with the funds. I don't know if you have or have not, but one is for a micro enterprise, and that would be training exclusively rather. And also, there is another component to that, which has to do more about coding and robots and for other technical experiences for those to be shared as well. So 2 pieces can be explained further detail if needed. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My recommendation would be that you email those to the commissioners, that budget and those references, so that we have those details.
Okay,
going
so
forward.
the budget component will be something that we will provide. If we're going to receive the grant, certainly we'll outline the budget, all the details that are necessary to share with you at that time. I have also, I don't know, but did you all not receive any of the information that I sent last week? See, I sent it to the city manager, I know. Mayor sent it to you as well, and did you not receive that?
So that'll get forwarded to us, but no, I don't think so.
You did not? No one did?
So, well, we would either all get it or not. So
Okay.
we
So are
still
you
have
saying the
time
ask
in
then
front.
is to resend?
Yeah, just resend. Send it to us as a commission.
I sent it to Jennifer and Tracy, and usually I would think they would forward that to you, so that didn't happen.
Just do commission@lakelandgov.net and we'll get it as the email address.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions by commissioners? Thank you very much for giving us an update. We appreciate it.
Wow, that's very interesting. Let me share a little bit about Kiki, the orchid cat.
That,
I have a minute, don't I? It's exhausted?
no, we're done. You had 7 seconds.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And if you want to follow up on anything, follow up with me, and I can be happy to make sure that everybody gets that information. Okay.
Okay, so Mayor, just to be clear now, I stood here and asked for a request, and I'm getting deaf ears here.
No, it's that we would need to look at it in the total of all the information. So that's why we need to look at the budget and to be able to see the expenditures, because we are going in to finalize our budget meeting this month with 2 subsequent meetings. And so everything that we have to take into consideration, we make out of the information that we have. So if you just send that to us, you have plenty of time to get it to us. Just do it.
And what is the time period?
Our first meeting's the 9th.
The 9th of October? The 9th?
2 days.
Oh, you mean like the 9th after, okay, this week, the 9th. Okay, Thursday, the 9th. Okay, you're saying it has to be submitted by there. Okay, so public information request, I'd like to see any other budget that you received also too, if that's public information in regards to any other asks that you received at this point, the 800,000.
And so we have those presentations made to us, and so you can certainly request those. That's not our role. Our role is to receive and decide, okay? But you can do whatever you would like with information requests. Yes?
I heard a request, we'll take care of it.
Okay, there you go. All right?
And thank you so much for your time. I realize most of you are chamber members of the greater chamber, and so have I been at one time, and have respect the chamber, but we are striving to try to do the best we can here in Lakeland to serve communities. We've helped many people. We've helped trucking business to get monies from Truett. We've helped so many. We've collaborated with SCORE. I presented for them. We've done a lot of work here in the city, and people are calling. We've relocated, helped people to relocate here. Some of them a house, they connected my office and more. We sent them to Catapult too. So we have been working solidly getting the job done, and we want that opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And that brings us back to Carrie Falwell from the Mayor's Council on the Arts funding request. And you're in the middle of your move, aren't you?
Yes, hence the need for flats today.
Yes, that's good.
Good morning, Commission. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Carrie Falwell. I am the chair of the Mayor's Council on the Arts, or publicly known as LKLD Arts, as you can now find us on the web and social media. In this role, I have the distinct honor of serving 15 organizations. These are small businesses, nonprofits, and educational institutions, both K-12 and higher ed, that all have a creative industry purpose. If you're not familiar with this, I encourage you to look us up, lkLDarts.org. Collectively, these 15 organizations account for over $5 million of economic impact to the city of Lakeland each year. All of these organizations are housed, perform in, and create revenue within the city of Lakeland, which is why they were named on a referendum to the Mayor's Arts Council by a version of this commission. Not everyone sitting in these seats were in that, but we were very honored that that happened several terms ago, and it continues to be a strong part of how we represent and inform and engage our creative citizens. All small businesses had a hard time during the pandemic, and I don't need to tell you guys that. You have worked diligently to make choices to best serve our small businesses, their employees, and our community at large. These small businesses in the Arts Council are no different, and as they are finally coming off of a recovery and able to have audiences, they're also dealt a hand of rising costs just like everyone else. Now, a really interesting challenge in the arts industry is that our clientele and our employees are specialized people. These are specialized skill sets. So they're very hard to find, they're very hard to train, and it takes years to become an expert in these individual fields. That goes for theater, that goes for dance, that goes for fine art, visual art, and children's museums. With the guidance and leadership of the Commission, several times over the last year, you have discussed the possibility of giving a portion of federal funds to the Lakeland Mayor's Council on the Arts to distribute through a competitive grant process. I would like to support that as it was brought up by the Commission, and I would like to make a recommendation based on the Arts Council. The recommendation would be that you would allot $200,000, which is slightly less than the original amount that was proposed, that it would go through a competitive grant application that has already been vetted by your city staff, and it would go through your process with your consultant for federal funds. What I additionally propose is that these funds would be limited to organizations with an operating budget less than $1 million. This takes my own organization off the block, but also organizations that have things like full-time development departments, grant writers, and potential support of other academic institutions behind them. What this does is allow a targeted amount of money to help the smallest organizations making huge impacts. If you can imagine a staff of 2 people putting on a week-long art festival that sees 10,000 people, that's incredible. We want to make sure those are the types of organizations that get an extra hand up and are able to overcome these rising costs so that we can create a more sustainable future for our creative communities, so that your citizens who enjoy these things have a chance to do them, and that we can continue to support Lakeland Mayor's Council on the Arts organizations and our citizens who get to enjoy them. And I welcome any questions.
Okay, any comments or questions?
Okay, well, thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell, for coming. And just for the public at large, she is in, when the mayor said she's in the biggest move, Explorations 5 is moving the Florida Children's Museum out to Bonnet Springs Park, and that is happening as we speak. And we're all very excited about that. And thank you for continuing to chair the Mayor's Council on the Arts. I'm glad you highlighted the mechanism in place that would distribute these funds. That's been a question with us in our workshop. as how they would be distributed and accounted for, because we ultimately, as a commission, do not want to see them clawed back from the federal government by any kind of process that did not adhere to federal mandates that we have in place. So thank you for mentioning that. And also, I appreciate that you came in with a lower ask to support these organizations, and that you already have a threshold of organizations that have budgets of 1 million or less. That's really what this money, in my mind, is about, is those smaller organizations that are really tightly run, who have had to dig out. When you can't have a theater full of people buying tickets, you're losing out on income that helps you sustain your nonprofit organization and the arts part of our community. But this is really a collective organization, and those are just sharing my thoughts with you on how, ideally I'd like to see it work. I know when we initially discussed the ARPA funds months and months ago, this is one of the mechanisms that we talked about. So I'm glad you were able to come in the midst of such a hectic time and speak on behalf of all those 15 organizations, especially the smallest ones who are the most on the cusp of potentially not being able to move forward after pandemic. Not that they're not being able to move forward, but it's just a rougher road for them. The groups that have the development directors and have the grant writers are obviously in a different position. So thanks for heightening our awareness on that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Other commissioners, comments, questions? This uses the same rubric that we would have used for funding those organizations also?
So it uses a slightly different rubric because it has to meet certain qualifications for ARPA funding. Those have already gone through city staff comments and made those adjustments.
Yeah.
So there's a well-defined map in the application. You know where these funds have to be spent, utilized. It's ready to go. We are also ready and willing to adjudicate that process, to make recommendations. We want to take as much burden off of the city staff and your consulting fees as possible. It's a process that we do annually for our operating dollars, which are critical support mechanisms for a lot of organizations in town. This would be a one-time request. It would be clear to the arts organizations, this is a one-time request. This is something to hold yourself up and push forward, do something bold and productive and sustainable towards the future of our arts industries.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
it. All right, that brings us up to our final request to appear from the general public, from Richard Garrity, regarding the flight pathways to Lakeland Linder International Airport. Good morning, Mr. Garrity. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Mayor. Nice to see you this morning, and the commission and the city manager. Thank you very much for allotting the time this morning for us to address Amazon noise concerns. You may recall I was here maybe 6 months ago urging you to enter into a contract with Hughes Aerospace, and I'm very happy that you did that. So my name is Rick Garrity. I've lived in the Lakeland Highlands, almost 3.5 miles east of Lakeland Linder Airport, and lived there with my wife in harmony with the airport use for most of the past 43 years, but not the last one. The airport is now more than halfway into the Hughes Aerospace contract to design a new flight path for cargo jets over a transportation corridor instead of residential property. We hope the excellent progress that Airport Director Chris Hallstrand has made continues, and she's been great to deal with and do business with, I'm very happy to say. And we hope that a solution is in place in the coming months. I did want to this morning share with you our continued concern over how this nuisance originated and culminated in secret negotiations with Amazon for a facility projected in the future to have over 16,000 cargo flight operations per year. In July 2016, the airport prepared a Phase 1 environmental assessment, or an EA, in part for a planned air cargo facility. And the EA did not mention any community involvement or outreach. The very next month, the FAA issued a finding of no significant impact, or a FONSI, based in part on the fact that the development of the cargo facility was anticipated to attract one large cargo aircraft per day, in and out, and a second plane expected during peak periods for a total of 820 flight operations per year. Fast forward to 2018. Since the earlier project was never built, the airport sought to revalidate the 2016 EA, stating that a prospective air cargo operator would fly not one trip, but now 8 trips in and out per day, or 5,840 annual operations. We now know that the prospective air cargo operator was Amazon, and the contract with a greatly increased number of cargo jets, from 1 to 8, was being negotiated in secrecy. The FAA concluded that increasing flight operations from 820 annual operations to 5,840 flight operations per year sounds like a big increase to me. The FAA said that did not trigger a new environmental assessment and did not need to be revalidated. Of course, the FAA does not really look at noise impacts for residential areas 2, 3, or 4 miles from the airport. Now the airport is committed to Amazon to expand the flight operations to 22 flights in and out per day for a total of 16,040 flight operations annually. Noise impacts several miles from the airport are of no concern to the FAA. However, Commissioners, it is most definitely a land use change, a land use issue, and of concern to this board. Commissioners, this is all the more reasons why your current efforts that Chris, the airport director, is involved in to move the flight path away from neighborhoods and towards an industrial or transportation corridor should please be of the highest priority. I'll leave you with the sound of a cargo plane in our neighborhood, and please be sure to turn up the volume. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So that's what we have been talking about. Mayor, I know you've experienced it yourself at your home. And let's keep our fingers crossed that the good work that Chris is doing with the FAA continues and is successful.
Thank you, and we appreciate that encouragement. Any other comments? Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Garrity. Chris, I would just ask, is there anything you would add to that on an update? This has been, you're in the middle of a long process with Hughes and the flight path, but just I think for the public as well as this comes back up to remind us all where things are and anything else you'd like to share.
The only thing that I would share is we continue moving forward with this. We're working with the FAA out of Tampa, and that has been where we've been tweaking our approaches in and out to work in the airspace that's complex between the Orlando and the Tampa airspace. So we are waiting on a final meeting and hopefully able to send us up to FAA. I still plan on having an approach put in place this winter sometime.
Okay. In that final meeting, do you have an anticipation of when that may be?
I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks. It is not scheduled yet. Okay. It takes time to schedule with the FAA.
Okay. Thank you. I think it's important just to continue to remind us, because we talk about it and then there are things that happen that you're aware of and we forget, and then coming back and we're reminded. So it's good as there are developments, and I know you will continue to keep us updated. And I know, as Mr. Garrity said, you have been very open to neighbors and residents and anyone who wants to talk about the process and what the airport is doing and what we as a city are doing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we're trying hard. It's something that we're working diligently on.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us to the next item, equalization hearings. So we'll cease meeting as a commission and begin as an equalization board. Lots cleaning and clearing from City Attorney Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city charter requires that the city commission convene as an equalization board prior to imposing a special assessment lien against private property, and the charter provides an opportunity for any property owner that is subject to a potential lien to address the city commission. So if you received a notice to appear this morning about a special assessment lien or proposed special assessment lien against your property, this is your opportunity to address the city commission with any questions or objections you might have.
All right, so looking at that list, if there's anybody in here once we pass a motion that addresses on that list that would like to appeal the consideration, this is your time to do that. So is there a motion to?
Motion to approve.
Second?
A motion to approve in a second on this equalization list.
Bill, I have a question.
Yes, and Commissioner Reed.
Why is the, on Bluefield, I don't know who's here from the code enforcement today or whoever's going to be here, but it's $1,800. I don't know if that's a cumulative cutting fee or is that a one-time cutting fee? I can't,
Good morning, Commission. Sunny Marshall, Code Enforcement Manager.
122 Bluefield.
Yes, that property actually had a very large cleanup happen. It also included hazmat, fire, law enforcement, pretty extensive cleanup.
So it's remediated now? We're just taking care of it?
Yes, sir. It's
So they have to start mowing or something like that from this point forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Are there any other, is there any other comments from commissioners? Seeing none, are there any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. That list will then be used forthgoing. And that ceases to meet as an equalization board, and we come back together as a commission, and we go to item number 3A, public hearings, ordinances, second reading, number 1.
Yes, we have one ordinance for second reading. That is proposed ordinance number 22-029, an ordinance relating to zoning, making findings, approving a conditional use to allow for off-street parking as a principal use on property located at 411 East Orange Street, finding conformity of the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing an effective date, and we have received another request for a continuance of this matter. At this point, if the City Commission is so inclined, I would recommend that we simply just continue this case indefinitely and then renotice the ordinance once it's ready to come back for final action.
Is there a motion for the continuance?
Motion to continue.
Second.
All right, so that Commissioner McCarley and Commissioner Walker and Commissioner Reed and
Anybody else?
all right, any discussion, Commissioner Reed?
Palmer, what is the issue? What seems to be, why do we, this is our third or fourth continuance?
Right. I think the issue is the timeline for development of something on that property. This requires a conditional use because the plan is to demolish the existing building on the property, which would make the parking lot the sole use on the property. And you cannot normally have a parking lot as the principal use on a piece of property without a conditional use. So this would grant them a conditional use to have the parking lot as a sole use on the property, but the recommendation is that that be constrained by a time limit so that after 5 years, something would have to be developed on that property. It couldn't just continue indefinitely as a.
Is this your opinion that this is a stalling tactic because they're not moving forward with this, or what's this
I
going to
just
do?
think that discussions are occurring.
Yes,
And if I may, just to Commissioner Reed, to add some context to that, we have remained in consistent communications with the applicant's representatives, and they are, trying to determine what their best course of action is moving forward, and some of that is unknown. I think market conditions and other factors play into that, but it's been, the working process has been fine. They just need more time to make decisions, and also to just add to Palmer's comments a moment ago, I believe it was over the weekend, we did receive an email from the applicant's representatives asking that it just be continued indefinitely, as Palmer mentioned. So they are in agreement, and that is actually their request as well.
Yes, sir.
Again, is this indefinitely, can that be, we might go on for 5 years indefinitely. Is there we need to put a indefinite timeline on this period per se, or?
Right now, there's not a violation on the property. I mean, there's an existing principal use. The structure's still there, so there's no need for a conditional use.
Until they demo the property?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I guess just a comment that when this first came up and I had reached out to the applicant's attorney, I think it was, anyway, to them, for it to sit seems like a big pain in their wall. I mean, there's nobody in there, so they're taking care of it, keeping it from leaking and all that stuff. So, I don't know that it's necessarily a kicking the can down the road intentionally as a stall so much as that they just want to get it right. But that's just my quick conversation with them. So.
Well, the motion includes, that's been made, it includes indefinitely. So if we want to change that, we'd have to do that after we pass this motion. All right. So any other comments by commissioners? Anybody or questions by the audience? All right, this would be a voice vote. All those in favor, I'm sorry, roll call. Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye.
Okay, so unanimously passes, so that will be indefinite. And then they can come back at some point in time. But to Commissioner Music's point, I think it's good too to note that it does cost money to leave that building there. And so I think there would be an economic motivation to try and resolve it in a shorter term.
I'm not using it.
All right, there's nothing under B for resolutions, nothing from the Community Redevelopment Agency, so that takes us to City Manager. 5A, and we have several items there for you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I have several items to work through this morning. The first one is related to a Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program grant for Lake Crego Park. Just for the public and the Commission's awareness, this is usually referred to as the acronym, the FERDAP. Grant. The city has been awarded a $200,000 matching grant. This would be used for the construction of Phase 3 of Lake Crego Park, which would include 3 lighted multi-use fields, a restroom, and parking. And thank you to Commissioner McCarley, because we have gotten so used to calling them soccer fields, but they are in fact used for many more purposes than just soccer. And so these would be multi-use fields. It does require matching funds, and the matching funds on the city's behalf are available in the public improvement funds for 2022. The project is expected, after we go through the permitting phase, to take approximately 1 year to complete. And so the request is that the city execute the FERDAP grant and approve an appropriation and increase in estimated revenue in the public improvement fund for the $200,000 that would be received through the grant.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Okay, discussion by commissioners. Seeing none, any discussion or questions by the audience? This is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes.
The next item that I have is regarding the purchase of an inland harvester transport barge. And just for clarity, inland seems a bit odd when you're talking about a water type of a barge, but inland is actually the name brand of the piece of equipment. This would be used by the Public Works Department for lake maintenance operations. This would increase efficiencies of our aquatic harvester. It will allow for debris to be shuttled back and forth to a shore conveyor, allowing the harvester to remain on site and continue operations. The purchase will be executed via a sole source standardized brand justification. There will be a requirement for an appropriation for the Fleet Management Vehicle Replacement Fund for the purchase of the equipment. The purchase cost is $254,365. The annual vehicle rent, fuel, and maintenance cost is estimated to be $55,000. Funds are available in the Stormwater Fund, and that would be transferred again to the Fleet Management Vehicle Replacement Fund for acquisition of the equipment. The purchase, as mentioned, does require the appropriation, so we would ask that the City Commission authorize the appropriate staff to purchase and to appropriate the increase in the revenue in the Fleet Management Vehicle Replacement Fund in the purchase amount, as mentioned, of $254,365.
Move to approve.
Second.
Approve in a second. Good Lakes people, I love that.
Yes.
Discussion by commissioners. Yes, Commissioner Reed.
I'm glad Lori's here, I think. So, actually, I was coming into town yesterday, and I noticed that, well, my wife noticed, I guess that's a better word for it. She's just as, she lives on the lake with me, so back behind the big church, we got an abundance of lily pads that are in bloom. They're real pretty, but it's almost totally inundated back. That's got to be at least a 40-acre piece back there that's probably needs the use of this machine.
And you can also kind of build on the excitement of its productivity.
Good morning, Lori Smith, Manager, Lakes and Stormwater Division. That we call the Mall Cove or the Southwest Cove in the Spatter Dock in that area. We routinely harvest that about once a year. So typically we do that in the springtime, but I did see it is growing back pretty quickly this year. It's amazing with the lack of rain we've had, how the vegetation is really growing. So it's on the schedule. We would definitely see if we can speed that up and get it done sooner.
Have we had any luck, or have we asked for a grant from the state to do some remediation work or some stuff to do like Parker, like we did in Lake Hollisworth, like they did over in Bonnet?
We have one grant right now with the Swift Mud, looking at some wetland rehabilitation projects for water quality. We, at the time, actually, we're applying for 2 more grants through Swift Mud for additional projects on Lake Parker, which would be more like wetland restoration for water quality. For any vegetation removal right now, that money typically comes from FWC, and Polk County kind of has the market on that because they do the major amount of aquatic plant removal in Lake Parker and most of our public access lakes.
I guess the answer is no.
Right. Long story short, yes.
No, with respect to your control.
Right.
Can you comment on the efficiency of this unit and the importance of it?
So this is going to make double our productivity. The way we use our harvester boat right now, we're out in the middle of the lake, we're collecting plant material, and then once the harvester's full, we have to go to the dock, so across the lake to the dock, offload, back out to where we're working. That could take about an hour round trip. So having the harvester barge, the harvester would offload directly to the barge would go to shore, the harvester would keep on working. By the time the barge gets back, the harvester would be full again.
And the barge is faster.
Yes, so rather than doing typical 4 loads a day, we anticipate 8 loads a day.
Wonderful. Commissioner Music.
Yeah, I think of the combines, shooting into the vehicle beside it, but will this, well, I know it will, how do we expect the additional use of the harvester as far as maintenance and longevity? The efficiency is excellent, but what is this going to do to the life of that thing, making it work double time?
It will definitely do less wear and tear on our boat going back and forth, but I guess the life expectancy of the equipment is at least 10 years. And we do have a maintenance agreement, and Fleet will be maintaining the boat. But if there's any major maintenance issues, the company would cover that.
So it's designed to work. It's not like we're putting it into some unreasonable request by having this barge offload this. It's just more efficient.
It's just more efficient, yes.
Good question. Any others? Any from the audience? This is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. Item 3.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is regarding 2 different contracts, one with Hubbard Construction Company, one with Hanson Professional Services, and then an amendment to an existing contract with Atkins North America. And these are related to the relocation of Taxiway P at our Lakeland Linder International Airport. The project of the relocation of the taxiway has been one that we have covered several different times. Certainly Chris is here at the end of the presentation if we need to provide additional information about that project. There is a map included with the agenda item. The total project costs are estimated at $6,389,455, and this is inclusive of construction services, engineering oversight, and other miscellaneous expenses, including $37,600 for wetland mitigation and administrative cost. Through this process, the city did advertise through a bid process and for the construction, and we did receive 3 bids. The engineer of record, which is Atkins, along with the airport staff, completed a review of the 3 bids and determined Hubbard Construction to be the lowest and most responsive bidder at a quote of $5,806,479.99. Also then Hanson Professional Services has been selected to provide the construction oversight services under a city RFQ process, and those services would be for a not to exceed amount of $401,640 $401,640,000, and those services are required for a project like this. Atkins, we already have a contract with, it would be amended to the firm's existing taxiway P design contract, or we would amend that contract in a not to exceed amount of $93,760 as the engineer of record. Funding for the project is provided by two different grants. That would include a grant from the Federal Aviation Administration and also one from the Florida Department of Transportation. Both grants were approved by the Commission in August. It's recommended that the Commission would allow city staff to enter into a contract with Hubbard Construction as presented, also with Hanson Professional Services as presented, and that there would be an amendment to the Atkins contract for the engineer of record services as presented. There would be an expense appropriation required, and that would include the total project cost of $6,389,455 less the previously appropriated $72,839 that was appropriated back in April. And that would also include a local share of $597,634, which would be funded by the airport's 2021 bond.
All right, is a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second?
And a second. Discussion by commissioners? Any discussion or questions by the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes.
Thank you. The next item is regarding a construction contract with Register Construction and Engineering for the conversion of a fire suppression system at the Lakeland Linder International Airport. This particular project would be to convert from the existing deluge fire suppression system to a wet pipe system and in the connected hangars at 3131 Flightline Drive. The existing fire suppression system, as we discussed on Friday, when one of the sprinklers activates, it activates all of them, which puts other equipment at risk in some of the adjacent hangar. Under the new system, it would be localized to where the sprinkler is activated, and you would avoid further risk to other equipment stored in adjacent areas at that facility. The airport did advertise for construction services through a City of Lakeland bid process, and there were two bids that were received. Our engineer of record, Hatcher Engineering, is one of our engineers of record. You heard me mention another one just a moment ago. Along with the airport staff, completed the review of the two bids and determined Register Construction to be the lowest and most responsive bidder at $680,809. Subsequently, staff did meet with Register to look for adjustments that could be made, reducing the project's overall cost. And through that work, we were able to lower the project cost to $580,000, so about $100,000 in savings. And that's related to city staff assuming the responsibility for overnight fire watch services while the fire suppression system is inactive or is down. Funding for the project was included in the airport's 2021 bond at an originally estimated $400,000, but due to high construction costs that we're all very familiar with, and also the poor condition of the existing pipes and the addition of two firewalls, the bid came in $180,000 higher than the engineer's initial estimate. However, the $180,000 increase in the project cost can be funded in the airport's 2021 bond proceeds. And so it's requested that the commission authorize the appropriate city officials to enter into the contract with Register Construction and Engineering as was presented. And it's also recommended that the project be funded through the airport's 2021 bond. No other appropriations are required to satisfy this request.
A motion to approve?
Second?
Second by Commissioner McLeod, made by Commissioner Reed. And the discussion by commissioners. Commissioner Reed.
I have Chris, can you come up, please, sir? Ma'am? Can you, is this a new system, or there again, why wasn't this done previously? I mean, is this something new, or have we got other buildings that are going to fall within the same parameters that this is going to happen to, or is this going to take care of the only spot that we have that's going to be like this?
So this is part of updating our facilities. One of the things this was identified, we've been trying to figure out a way to fix it for about 6 years. When the bond came, we decided to put it in the bond to fix this because it is a risk out at the airport. We're just trying to minimize risk, and it just so happened to be prioritized as something that was important to us to get taken care of sooner than later.
So this is mostly just for the Skyline building per se?
The 3131 is, yep.
Are there other buildings that we're going to encounter the same problem with?
No, we've done a lot of updating of our fire systems. So we've done a lot of in-house work. This was just too large to do in-house. Through fire team as we've done other work.
Okay, good, thank you.
Commissioner Music.
Yeah, just as a public notice, based on our conversation, that there's a lot of construction aspect to this, because that was my question, is why are we not hiring somebody that specifically just does this? And it's just because of the scope of the construction aspect. So that was just a good explanation on Friday. Yeah.
Right. Other comments or questions? Any by the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same, unanimously passes.
The next item is regarding the city's reimbursement to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency for IT equipment out at the Lakeland Linder International Airport. This is included under our existing agreement with that agency. This would be to upgrade their information technology equipment on a scheduled basis. The upgrade to the IT equipment will be required for fiscal year 2023, and it will be in the amount of $71,302. Annual network and circuit costs beyond that are estimated at $13,760. Both costs have been included in the airport's 2023 budget, and so again, per the existing agreement, it's requested that we enter into a memorandum of agreement to reimburse the agency in the amount of $71,302 for IT equipment upgrades in fiscal year 2023, and no appropriations are required for this request.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion approved in a second. Discussion by commissioners or questions? Any by the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes.
Finally, and this one will take a few moments to work through. This is regarding an award of RFP 2203 for Group Medical Administrative Services and RFP 2213 for Pharmacy Benefit Manager Services to United Healthcare. United Healthcare has an existing contract with the city that will be expiring on December 31st of this year. United Healthcare is our current third-party administrator for our health plan and prescription drug benefits services. There was an RFP for Group Medical Administrative Services only, and then an RFP for Pharmacy Benefit Manager Services only. There was a selection committee that was formed that included 11 members. It was a fairly large selection committee, but that was because we wanted to include our retirees who utilize those services, and so we had representatives from our COLAR, which is our organization for our retirees. There was also representatives from our active and current employee association. We had representatives from both police and fire unions were a part of that committee, and then we also had several other departments from the city that was included. We did invite the UWUA, which is the collective bargaining unit for water and electric, but they were unable to attend. For the first RFP for the Group Medical Administrative Services only, there were 3 submittals. Our contractor, Gallagher Benefit Services, provided the selection committee with a comparison of the 3 submittals. The selection committee then agreed or decided to interview those 3 different agencies that had submitted. Under the other RFP, which was for Pharmacy Benefit Manager Services, there were 7 submittals. Our consultant, Gallagher Benefits, utilized their national pharmacy practice consultant to run scenarios of our projected 2023 pharmacy utilization against the 7 submitted financials to determine the claims dollar impact on the city's pharmacy plan. projection scenarios identified the top 3 firms and their reduction as a percentage of current pharmacy cost. When you look at that in the form of a ranking, United Healthcare came in at a 17.6% reduction. The next closest was at 12.6% in a reduction. Third-party administrator proposers were then requested to include pharmacy benefit management services, as well as a proposal for those services to be carved out as standalone options. Aetna, Cigna, and United Healthcare provided the option as requested. United Healthcare combined with Optimum Pharmacy Benefit Manager Services for those pharmacy benefit services and provided the most competitive pricing of the 3 combined proposals, with a total savings projected over the next 3-year period of $2,520,000. Additionally, United Healthcare presented a best and final offer that also included a $200,000 wellness budget for the city, a $250,000 discretionary budget for the city to utilize. They also included improved pharmacy rebate guarantees and proposed a level 2 diabetes plan and a 5-year commitment to the lower administrative fee per employee per month. So after all of this work done by the selection committee and the recommendation, it is recommended that the commission authorize the appropriate city officials to negotiate a contract with United Healthcare to be combined with Optum Pharmacy Benefit Manager Services for 3 years with 2 one-year renewals available.
So moved.
Motion to approve and a second by Commissioner McLeod. Oops, where's Kelly?
She got a record on.
She got a recorder on. Okay, great. I just don't want to go forward. And any discussion by commissioners? Yes.
Just a comment, you know, when we read these things and listen, and even preempts us to listen, this is going to be, you know, just kudos to the selection team and to everybody that digs through stuff that we don't do on a daily basis. Right? So, you know, there's certainly a level of trust that comes with their expertise, but you know, to dig into this and to try to always make the next agreement better than the one before, it's a great job.
It's a wonderful tool that the city has available in our purchasing department, and it's a complicated arena that changes all the time. And so I agree with that comment.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may just tag on to that, thank you for the comments. And I do want to commend our staff, Joyce Dias and her staff, who worked very hard on this, and also our partners with United, and also probably as very important is our consultants with Gallagher. You'll remember when we went through that process to select them. But I also just want to point out how flexible that process is. And so you saw as an example there, you know, we started off one way with 2 different needs and ended up combining them for a very good savings there to the city. So we talk about innovation. It's not always just technology. Sometimes it's just innovation of thought and process, and this is a good example of that. So thank you to our staff and partners.
Excellent. Good comment. All right, any comments by the audience at all? Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. Bring us back to our city attorney for A1 on ordinance's first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have several ordinances for first reading. These will be read by title only this morning, and we'll come back for a public hearing and consideration of final action by the commission on September 19th. The first is proposed ordinance number 22-042, an ordinance relating to zoning, making findings, amending ordinance 4855 as amended, to provide for a modification to plan unit development PUD zoning to increase the maximum building floor area for an existing self-storage facility from 72,000 square feet to 99,536 square feet in order to allow a 2-story expansion on property located at 5320 North State Road 33, providing conditions, finding conformity with the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing an effective date. Next is proposed ordinance number 22-043, an ordinance relating to zoning, making findings, amending ordinance 5129 as amended to modify an existing conditional use to adopt a new site development plan and allow a freestanding emergency room and certain other uses as part of a planned medical office uses on property located at 2500 Kathleen Road, finding conformity with the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing an effective date. Next is proposed ordinance number 22-044, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Lakeland, Florida relating to investment policies, making findings, amending ordinance number 5911 to provide, to modify the City of Lakeland investment policy for the Public Improvement Endowment Fund, providing for severability, providing an effective date. Next is proposed ordinance number 22-045, an ordinance relating to the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District, making findings, approving the inclusion of certain lands located within the City of Lakeland within the boundaries of the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District, and providing for severability, providing an effective date. And again, these will all come back for a public hearing, public comment, and consideration of adoption on September 19th.
Thank you. Let's continue then to B1.
B1 is proposed resolution number 22-040, a resolution relating to assessments, determining the necessity for having cleaned and cleared certain properties within the City of Lakeland, providing for the assessment of liens against such property for expenses incurred in the cleaning and clearing thereof, providing an effective date.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Discussion by commissioners. This is what we just talked about in the Equalization Board. Any discussion or questions by the audience? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner McLeod?
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
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 Unanimously passes.
Next is proposed resolution number 22-041, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lakeland, Florida, supporting an application by Polk County to secure award of a Safe Streets for All grant, providing an effective date.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. And discussion by commissioners. We're going to have a presentation by our TPO director.
So, good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of the board. I'm Parag Agarwal from Polk Transportation Planning Organization. Although I have met most of you in our Polk TPO board meetings, but this is my first time in front of the Lakeland City Commission. So
Welcome.
Thanks to Teresa and Chuck for placing our item on the City Commission's agenda today. The item which is in front of you is to review and support the resolution number 22-041 to apply for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant application to complete the countywide complete Polk's Community Vision Zero Action Plan. As we know, the safety of all road users is a very important issue facing our communities. On an average, there are around 8 fatalities and 49 serious injuries on Florida roadways each day. In 2021, the Lakeland Winter Haven areas were listed as the 9th most dangerous metro area in the country to be a pedestrian by a report published by Smart Growth of America, which is a national nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. So this is the graph that basically relates Polk County with other counties in Florida. Although we have made significant progress in the fields of economic development, transportation, safety, environment, but our roadway fatalities and serious injury numbers continue to be unacceptable. This graph basically shows that the Polk County is at number 7th in terms of fatality counts out of 67 counties in Florida, and at number 6 in terms of fatality rate out of 67 counties in Florida. If you look at the data between 2016 to 2020, on an average, there are approximately 127 fatalities each year on Polk County roadways. And there are approximately more than 460 serious injuries on Polk County roadways each year, with an average cost of more than $1.75 billion to Polk County communities every year. Now, coming back to our grant application, in 2021, the federal infrastructure bill basically appropriated $5 billion as part of the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant for the next 5 years, out of which $1 billion have to be spent in the fiscal year 2022. The purpose of this grant application is to improve roadway safety by significantly reducing or eliminating roadway fatalities and serious injuries. So there are 2 buckets for this grant application. Number 1 are the planning grants, and number 2 are the implementation grants. For the planning grants, communities can apply to complete or develop a Vision Zero action plan, and then the amount which we can ask can range from $200,000 to $1 million. The second bucket is the implementation grants. to basically implement the projects which are coming out of the Vision Zero action plan. And the amounts which the communities can ask for can range from $3 million to $30 million. The deadline for this application is September 15th. So again, in my first few slides, I basically mentioned that there's a significant need in Polk County and in South and in Central Florida to apply for this grant. So the Polk Community's Safe Streets and Roads for All grant application is to complete the county-wide Vision Zero action plan. The focus is on project identification and implementation. So it's not only a policy plan that basically says that we have to improve our roadway safety. This plan will basically identify the 10 most dangerous intersections and the 10 most dangerous corridors in the county, and we can basically come up with a conceptual level design and project estimates for these corridors and intersections. And the goal is, once we get these project level estimates, the cities and the county can include those estimates as part of their CIP programs. The focus is on collaboration. We will be working very closely with Polk County and all the cities on this Vision Zero action plan. And the third focus is on equity. There are around 47% of Polk County's population live in the underserved communities, but more than 60% of all crashes happen in our underserved communities. So again, minorities and the underserved community are much more impacted because of these roadway fatalities and crashes. Some of the other things which we will work on this plan are the leadership commitments. As you know, Polk TPO has a goal of Vision Zero. That means 0 fatalities and 0 roadway injuries. But again, we do not have any time limit. There are no interim goals. So through this planning process, we will be working with all the commissioners, all the cities, all the Polk County commissioners to come up with the interim goals and to have some sort of a timeline so that we can basically gauge the progress of our initiatives. The focus is on reporting and transparency. So again, all the communities in Polk County are investing significantly to improve safety, but again, the focus will be on coming up with the annual reports and annual reporting so that we can say what sort of efforts are being addressed. Again, the focus, once we have this Vision Zero action plan in place, it is our intent that the Polk TPO will be working with Polk County and other cities to apply for the implementation grants for the projects which are being identified as part of the Vision Zero action plan. And as I initially mentioned, the implementation grants can go up to $30 million for each project. So it's basically a pay-to-play. You need to have a plan in place to apply for an implementation grant. But unfortunately, we do not have a plan in place, so you have to apply for the planning grant, and then you can ask for the implementation grants. The total project cost is approximately $1 million. As you know, a federal grant is always 80-20. So 80% federal grant, 20% local match. The local match is coming from the Polk County, but the primary applicant is the Polk County, but it's basically a group of all the cities of Polk County and the TPO working together on this. We have received a resolution of support from, I think, most of the cities in Polk County. We have received a resolution of support from CFDC, Citrus Connections, Polk Vision, and we are also reaching out to other businesses to get letters of support from them. So this was the end of my presentation, so that the ask in front of you is basically to review and support our grant application. And I see that the Commission has already made a motion, and I hope we will get a chance to work with you not only on this planning process, but also trying to improve the safety of our roadway users. Thank you.
Thank you, and I am so grateful that you are demonstrating for us how unacceptable this kind of scenario is in transportation today. And we are a state that has a lot of tourists that come to it, but beyond that, we have to have corridors for safety, because a lot of these aren't tourists, they're us. When you go back to those numbers, on the unincorporated areas, you talked about 70% and 60% of the crashes. Can you readdress that just for clarity? I want to make sure that I heard that correctly, and I think they're sobering numbers, and we.
Yeah. There you go. Right.
This slide, sir?
Well, it's actually the one where you had the SSA grant scope on the top of the slide as the banner, SSA 4 grant pool scope. And you talked about equity on the underserved, right?
Yeah, right there,
So in Polk County, around 47% of the population live in the underserved communities. But although the population is only 47%, but these crashes, they constitute approximately 60% of these crashes in the underserved communities. So again, the population is around 47% living in those communities, but if you look at the number of crashes, they constitute to more than 60%, 64% of our pedestrian crashes and 62% of our bicycle crashes.
Okay. Commissioner Madden.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. As a mother of 6 children, when I look at the multi-jurisdictional approach, I'm appreciative. Everything that we look at when we're talking about development and traffic in the city of Lakeland, it comes up against a county road, state road. Certainly the multi-jurisdictional approach is going to be best. We can't do this on our own. But to me, the gaping hole is where is the school board? Because the way we have done school through Polk County and through the state of Florida has contributed, just like the way we've done suburban sprawl as our development process throughout the state of Florida, that's contributed to the unsafety of students, because students are bused all around. They're not neighborhood schools. People aren't walking to school as much. So when the 2 that do walk to school, they're not thought of in the same way as pedestrians would be. If everyone in that neighborhood walked to school, there'd be collective action among those neighbors to make sure the kids are safe. And I, for one, would like to see how many of those statistics are children who are trying to get to school safely who cannot. And when we have opportunities to incorporate schools in neighborhoods or talk to the school about where schools should be located so that we can think about the safety of those schools, there is not a collaboration, in my opinion, or communication that joins those efforts. So to me, I feel like that is a huge problem, to look at this application and to look at this effort and not have the school board to take responsibility and be at the table, because they're the one determining their carpool routes and who goes to what school and drawing the boundaries. And I think that for me, as one person who does not want to see one more child get hit by a car trying to walk to school, and actually, frankly, I would like to see a lot more pedestrian bike activity. For my children, we were in 10 different schools in the city of Lakeland. And it's problematic when my child wants to try to ride their bike or their skateboard and it's almost impossible, like whether it's the rules of the county school board or with that particular school and where it's placed. So to me, this is a huge point of advocacy that I would personally want to make, that they be incorporated in these discussions if we're going to make some traction on this Vision Zero.
Yes, Commissioner, totally right. So when we talk about roadway safety, we basically talk about 3 E's. Education, as we were saying, education, engineering, and enforcement. So I can say the Polk TPO has recently launched a website. We have basically worked with the elementary schools of Polk County Public Schools to launch a safety curriculum. We have a very, I will say, flashy website that basically talks about how the kids can be educated about safety aspects in school. And I will be happy to forward you that link. And one of the things which we will be working very closely on this project and also for our Gulf Coast Safe Street Summit conference is to how we can include our schools. As you're saying, they are the very important stakeholders in the entire process. How can we better include them? Yes.
Good comment. Yes, Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Parag, for being here today. And I know you haven't done the analysis to do the action plan yet, but just your first thoughts on what will it take to get our region, our county, out of those bottom rankings, to have as many crashes, as many fatalities? Are there gaps that you see? And I know you've only been with the TPO for a short period of time, but gaps that you see in those 3 E's that you mentioned, the education, engineering, or enforcement. Just curious, while you're here today, kind of your take on what it will require to get us out of the situation we're in.
So basically, this is the map that basically shows the areas which has the maximum number of fatalities in Polk County. The red basically shows are the areas which are locally maintained roadways, and the yellow are the state owned roadways. What I will say the gap is it's not only about engineering, it's not about trying to make our roads, it's sort of a holistic approach trying to mix land use with transportation. There are some, suppose Commissioner Madden, you were talking about schools. You have to basically look at what type of land uses which are there in the entire area where schools are. I was talking to one of the executive directors in Central Florida. They were talking about how a big Amazon warehouse got built next to a middle school. And once you have that, a big warehouse construction took place, and the number of accidents and injuries have only increased of the kids. So again, it's basically a comprehensive approach. How can we basically educate our citizens? That's the education. It's about the land use issues which all the city commissions and the county board of commissioners always react to. And again, it's sort of a holistic approach. How can we try to limit our speeds? Personally, I'm new to Florida. I'm new to Central Florida. I moved here from Virginia. Personally, I will say I have never seen so many accidents in my life since what I have seen the last 6 months. Very unfortunate, but I'm sure we can work all together to make sure that our communities are much more safer.
Thank you.
Any particular reason for that, do you think?
I will say speed. Speed. I will say speed. Like I drive Route 60. Like from when I live in Brandon, I come to Bartow. I drive Route 60. The average speed is 60 miles per hour, but I think everyone is going 75 to 80 miles per hour. But then there are also bus stops. There are also school buses which are also going on Route 60. Then all of a sudden there's a school bus that stopped, and everyone who's basically going to 65, 70 miles per hour, they just have to stop, right? Hopefully they will stop. So again, you're trying to mix all the traffic, all the uses, but still the speeds are so high.
Yes. Commissioner Walker, then Music, and then McCarley.
I just want to make sure Mr. Prague put a plug in, Mr. Mayor, for the upcoming summit that we'll be having about safe streets, because I think it's important to the public to hear and want to participate in what we're trying to do, become somewhat zero tolerant when it comes to these kind of situations. And I know you probably may have said you would probably do it anyway at the end of your discussion, this discussion, but certainly want to make sure that our public is aware of what's going on with this particular Safe Streets kind of summit that'll be coming up, and how the public can be a part of and be educated, because education is so important.
So thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for bringing this up. So again, on November 3rd, TPO is working with all cities to host I will not say summit, although it does say a summit, but it's a safety fair. We could easily have invited all the speakers who can come to a conference room and deliver all the speeches. But as you know, once you leave the room, you always forget what was being said. But once you experience safety, hopefully it will stick to all our audiences for a much longer time. So again, this safety fair, this summit is open to the general public. We do have a small registration fee, but we do have a number of scholarships in place. So anyone from the general public who wants to come to this safety fair and to this summit, please contact us and we can waive the registration fee, and you are all invited to come to this conference.
Thank you, Mr. Prague. And again, I would want to emphasize that, those that may be in need and want to be support, you have scholarships available that can be used to help support your registration fee. They need to know that as well. So you did say it. I just want to make sure we emphasize it. Those that may wish to come. Yeah, and want to be a part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Music.
I was going to talk about the summit, so.
All right, great. Commissioner McCarley.
Just a couple things. Thanks for coming, Prague. And I think what you hit on, there are a couple things that you hit on. Holistic approach, which is multimodal transportation. And when we talk about as a city, bike lanes, pedestrian thoroughfares, that's multimodal, meaning that everyone can live together and congruently and safely in one place. And so I think that's really important for the public to understand, is that sometimes people say, well, why do you have a bike lane there? That seems crazy. But as we continue to grow and have a higher level of population, that's why we think about these things in the front end versus trying to retrofit something in the back. And TPO is really great at that. And that's one of the nice things about having all 17 municipalities together in that organization to work together. In addition to that, these are all controllable behaviors. So this is a behavioral shift. When you start talking about public safety, and I whispered to the mayor when he asked you what you thought the problem was on Highway 60, I said it's speed. I'm guilty of speeding. We are used to living in an agricultural rural community where we have big roadways, 2-lane roadways in between our entities to get from one place to another that we can drive very quickly on to get there. And we are not all thinking about the other modes of transportation and the other people in their modes to come together, and that we all have to live congruently again in one place and all on these roads. And then the final thing I just wanted to add really quickly is with regard to the summit, it's 4 hours, it's a big commitment. We are highly encouraging people to participate. I'm so grateful that the TPO can provide scholarships. But what I would like to ask the public is if you have a circle of influence, which everyone does, try to get there. If you are influencing young people because you are the pastor of a youth group, or if you are a sports team's coach that you volunteer on the weekends, or if you have a company or an HR person from your company, if you could just send someone that could bring this information back to your circle of influence, you would see a ripple effect of information that's spread throughout. And I think that's one thing we need to remember too, that we can talk about these things, and several of us are going to attend, and several of us sit on the TPO board, so we're privy to this information all the time. But it's really imperative and as a personal responsibility for all of us as citizens of Lakeland and Polk County to be a part of this discussion and continue to look not only at land use, but what our personal responsibility is in regard to, being safe and making sure our children do get safely to school, and that we get safely to work, and that everybody gets to where they need to be and traverses this very big 2,200 square miles of a county with lots of roadways and the anchor in between the two coasts. We really need to be careful. So I just didn't want to get this buried. It's been a long meeting, and I want to make sure that this wasn't buried, and that we understand what our responsibilities are, and that we really appreciate you coming and sharing with us for your first time at the City of Lakeland. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I couldn't agree more with that, and particularly, one of my favorite outdoor exercises is biking. And when you think about all the work that we're doing on biking, the thing that scares me is always when I read about the bike fatalities, and you think about, wow, that's why it's nice to go in a car. We have to bridge that. And part of how we have to be sobered in terms of consequences that Commissioner McCarley is just talking about is something like this summit. And that's why having right people in this at that meeting is so important, because we need to recognize consequences, and sometimes to change behaviors, that's what it takes, is to see, wow, I didn't realize the difference that would make. And in this 4-hour period of time, if you can't make it all, it is an in-out that people can come if they need to. So if you can do a portion of it, that'd be great. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. Thank you for being here there again. I know you made part of this presentation to the TPO meeting we were at last week, and it was interesting. It was actually very eye-opening for me. And of course, there again, one of the hot spots is right down the street from my home on Edgewater Beach Drive all the way to Cumbie Road. And I am, people, when you get past Parker Drive and you start going east around the lake, it's race time. And I tell our police department on a regular basis they need to come down there, and the speed limit is 45, and you'll get past, if you're going 55, quite frequently. But invariably, it's 4-lane road is not highly used, but it's still, it's fast anyways. But that was just when we did that improvement from Lake Parker Road all the way to the west, I was kind of dismayed that they thought that people would use these little walkways going across. But they do.
Yeah, they do.
It's amazing. I thought, well, this is going to be a waste of money. And they come up and they press the button, and they walk down the street to where they walk across, and the Memorial Boulevard West is a lot safer than it used to be. And there's a little walkway they can jump on in the middle if they can only think they can make it halfway. But a lot of people are utilizing those particular safety walks, and I don't think our people are quite used to them yet, because there's some they run, drivers will run those caution lights a little bit, but maybe if a ticket's issued there or something in the near future, it changes your driving habits. Anyway, I just wanted to make that brief little statement.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
again, one of the most important things are like, these are just not the numbers. These are our friends. These are our family members. So when you basically look at the map, these are our roads, right? These are our roads, as Commissioner, you are saying. So basically, once we look at a hotspot, which is close to our homes, it basically strikes you. Like, okay, this is the place where I live, or this is the place where I go for our grocery shopping, and I'm basically going to one of the most dangerous places in Central Florida or in the country. So again, that's basically why it's not only about the numbers or the maps, but trying to relate these figures to the individual community members.
Any other comments? All right, any comments by the audience at all, or questions? All right, this is a roll call vote, and so that will be Commissioner Walker.
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye.
All right, unanimously passes, and thank you very much for your patience and presentation.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, our next resolution for consideration is proposed resolution number 22-042, a resolution relating to cemetery fees, adopting a schedule of fees for the sale of interment rights to cemetery spaces and for various other services, repealing Resolution 5708 and other resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Move approval.
Motion to approve in a
Second.
second. All right, and discussion by commissioners. We looked at a lot of these on Friday. Any discussion or questions by the audience? Okay, seeing none, this is a roll call vote, and we'll start with Commissioner McLeod.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Unanimously passes.
Last is proposed resolution number 22-043, a resolution relating to parks, recreation, and cultural arts, establishing fees, charges, and deposits for facility rentals, programs, and services, repealing Resolution 5709 and all other resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Move approval.
Motion to approve in a second by Commissioner Music, and discussion by commissioners. Commissioner Reed.
I'm sorry I wasn't here on Friday, and I'm sure y'all went over a lot of these different issues.
Sure.
And
Go ahead.
Bob, what do we bring in on our rentals per year? You got a gross figure?
Do you have that PowerPoint here?
On our rentals, are you talking of the various different buildings?
Yeah, well, bro, it's total. It's like a
So
total. You have
the
a total
total of all of our buildings
Yeah.
is what you're looking for. I don't know, Bob, if you would have that. We can
No.
certainly pull that information.
Okay, and again, and you feel these fees, the increase is adequate for what we need this year?
Yes.
You don't want any more?
Which increases are you specifically looking at? I'm sorry.
Say again? Yep.
Yeah, well, so Commissioner, most of the increases that you see on the schedule here are just being increased by the CPI.
Right.
There are some that we have adjusted based on benchmarking with other cities, or like at the case of Lake Crego, we have had a few years to study that now, and we kind of committed to during that time, if we didn't see as many rentals as we think there could be, we could reduce that fee, and we are. And so that's where, but most of these adjustments are from the CPI adjustments.
Right.
So they're gonna have a pretty significant increase this year because of our inflation, aren't we?
Will we?
Well, it's our CPI is a lot higher.
Yeah, these will see the increases, but there's nothing that I don't, again, benchmarking with other cities, we're not out of line
Right.
anywhere.
I didn't think so, but I was just make sure we have plenty of money to subsidize, make sure we have all the money we need for our parks. It's very critical for our citizens to have stuff to do for them.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, and I want to thank City Manager and especially Mr. Donahue, because I was one of the ones, of course, that was against the actual rate that we were charging for Lake Crego when we instituted that particular rate. And we had, I think a couple of us was concerned about that. But, we did do the study, and we said, well, hey, let's see how it goes for the next, few months. But, COVID came in, of course, and we had to deal with that situation as well. But I'm thankful for the reduction, because I think it's now pretty much in line with what I'm seeing around the other areas of our county especially. So, of course, I thank you for that. And that's, you and I had those kind of discussions, but thank you for that. We got the reduced where I think it's be more and more palatable, we know, for our citizens here to be able to use that facility. Thank you again.
Thank you. The city manager encourages us every 6 months to look at our fees and adjust and come back to the commission each year for common sense items that we need to look at. And this was one of the ones that we talked about. And we did comparisons internally and then also externally, and that was one of the ones that he identified. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, thank you, Commissioner Walker, but before Bob is seated, I would ask Bob, one of the ones that we did not cover, and he reminded me of this morning at Friday's agenda study, is related to our late fees at our library. And so, Bob, if you don't mind, could you just provide some information on what we're doing there?
One of the things that Lisa Lilliquist brought up to me about a couple years ago, actually, and we talked about, was 10 cents a day late book fines that people pay. And our idea of our libraries, you guys know, we're getting ready to open up the new library, the remodeled library. We're very excited about, by the way. Collecting 10 cents a day is archaic. We want to, usually when a book is late is because the parent fails to get it to the library to turn it in. And so then they have to get out of their car, they have to turn it in, they have a car full of kids, and it serves as a deterrent from them coming and visiting our library on a daily basis. So we looked at other libraries, Lake Wales, Mulberry, Hillsborough County Public Public Library, Sarasota, Pinellas, Manatee, Pasco, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach. Everybody's doing away with 10 cents a day late fees. If the book is automatically checked out again 2 weeks later, if it's late, if there's nobody requesting it, we roll it over. And if it's late again, we roll it over again if nobody's requested it. After 30 days, if nobody has come in to return the book, we automatically charge them the price of the book on their library card. So if they do come back and want to use their service again, they have to pay for the price of the book. But the bottom line is we're trying to encourage parents, children, all to come to our library. 10 cents a day late fee is a deterrent. Because it's usually not the child that is late with the book, it's usually the parent is late with the book. And so the parent doesn't want to take the time to pay the late fee. So we're asking the commission to be able to do away with those, basically.
And I will also say, this is really a national movement that's happening in a lot of libraries.
Yes.
I mean, Bob mentions a lot of local and I think even maybe Fort Lauderdale, but, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, a lot of library systems are going to this practice because the data is showing that it is effective. It's more cost effective, it's more efficient, and it actually encourages folks to, even if they're late, to bring it back sooner than they might if they're, can't maybe pay that immediately, the late fee. So
I can attest to the fact that in a home where there might be lots of children's books and things that this could occur, and it's how some libraries get expanded, and buying those books is a fair thing to do.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner.
Well, just to add on to that, we use the library a lot over the summer, and I don't think we got our kids' books back on time once. And so we were always, do we incur the late fee or load everybody up to take the books back to the library? So sometimes my wife opted, we'll just pay the fee. But so clarification, it would, after 30 days, Bob, that you would charge the book to the parent?
Yes, we would charge at the price of the book. It was over $10.
Okay.
And yes, and then hopefully then when the person came in again to use, and bring their child again to use, then they'll make restitution at that time. But like I say, when you're late as a parent, you're in a hurry.
Yeah,
Right.
because if not, we'd still have all the books at
You have two confessions.
We know where you live.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Music.
Yeah, Bob, did you say that you review these fees twice a year?
At least.
Okay, because that would just be my request, would be to kind of get the numbers and have especially some of these more expensive units. Has this increase been a deterrent? Have we not seen uses at some of our pavilions and lakes and to be able to adjust that if need be? So thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
An unspoken item that we haven't talked about is the $10 athletic fee that we're beginning in this and the reasonableness of it. And I know it's a concern for some parents. Can you just touch base on that and why we need to get started?
The cost of athletic fields. We have some of the nicest athletic fields in the county. And we're very, like I say, we talked about agenda study, we're very proud of that. But the cost of fertilizers, ag and hort, chemicals, pesticides has gone just crazy. 100% increase in fertilizer over the last year. Our chemicals are rising constantly, and it's something we can't control. We've resisted it for years. I've been here 45 years, and we've never had to do this before. But when we started going to other municipalities, our own county, they're at the $10 fee and $15 for adults. We looked over just over the county line, Plant City, which is $30 per child. We also, some of the smaller cities, they're at $4 per child, but they're also looking to raise their rates. Just the cost of doing the business, we're going to expand, we're going to add population, and if we want our athletic fields to stay nice, we really don't have a choice. Our leagues, you have to remember with our leagues, for instance, like our soccer league right now is over 2,000 children. That's just one of the soccer leagues, along with Little League football, Little League baseball. And our costs, we do projects with youth organizations, internally that they want to see, and they'll contribute money, and we'll contribute money. But as far as by and large, the cost of maintaining those athletic fields, you as commissioners through our budget process are the ones that fund it. And now our budget isn't big enough to be able to afford and to keep them at the level that we're at now. So that's why we're asking for the $10 per child fee per season.
Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable request, and it is a chance to have to share some of that load, and we have had the benefit of not doing it, but I appreciate you're asking for it.
Yes,
and
sir.
I think it's time for us, personally, I think it's certainly time for us to step up to that. And like everything else, if we have people that can't have something like that met, there's almost always a way with friends or, other opportunities to figure out how to bridge those gaps. And
Yes,
so
sir.
we just encourage, assuming this passes, we just encourage that is something that citizens will help to support because of the great need that we have to offset those increasing costs and the high usability by the athletes.
Yes, sir.
All right, Commissioner Reed.
One question, Don, in reference to the library, if at the end of 30 days and we write the book off basically, will we order up a brand new one if it's a popular book, or?
Yes, sir.
Do we have multiple books? And I guess we have multiple books in some areas, but
Some areas we have multiple, but in the case of if it was just a single item, we would replace the same book. Yes, sir.
is that right? I called up the library last week, I think, and we're cleaning out our house, doing a spring cleaning, a winter clean, whatever it is, and I want to donate some books, and they said they weren't taking any books right now until the renovations are completed. So I got a stack. I'm getting a lot of pressure from home to get rid of them, so they may end up in the dumpster if I don't do something pretty quick. But
Well, I was at the library last week, and the Friends of the Library are restocking their shelves again, so I'm sure they'll be willing to take. And also, again, I know Lisa Lilliquist, our city librarian, sent you all an email inviting you, and her and Luann Mims are chomping at the bit to give you a guided tour. When you see it, it's going to blow you away. We're so proud.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I tried to peek in the windows, you have them covered still,
Like a storefront.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments? All right. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman McLeod.
One question, Bob, about the $10 fee for field space per participant. Have you had a chance to talk to the leagues and to give them a heads up that this is coming and it's something you've posed, and if it passes, that this would be something they need to factor in, just so they know that this is under consideration?
As soon as the commission, if it passes this morning, we're going to schedule meetings with other leagues. We've had informal conversations, but I want to meet with the group as large, the whole, not just the president or one or two people in the organization. We've already done that, but we want to meet with the whole group to explain and how the impact is going to impact. And then, as Mayor Mutz talked about just now, is that there is a hardship. Okay, how can we address that also? We're Parks and Recreation. We want more children on our fields, not less. So if there is a problem, then we're going to figure out how to solve it together. But we're going to make sure that all children or on our athletic fields, or inside our gymnasiums, or inside our libraries, and not to exclude anyone. Well, trust me, we'll go the extra mile on that.
Thank you, appreciate that question. Any other questions from the audience or comments? This is a roll call vote. Commissioner McLeod?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Unanimously passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
your leadership in this. All right, that brings us to our finance director has a report for us.
Yes, good morning. We have an appropriation increase in estimated fuel expenditures and revenues for the Lakeland Electric Operating Fund. During fiscal year 22, Lakeland Electric experienced an increase in natural gas fuel costs as global demand for the commodity outstripped supply. The resulting increase in European LNG, or liquefied natural gas prices, led to higher domestic exports from the U.S., thus reducing the amount of natural gas available for domestic use and storage. Pipeline constraints and hot summer, coupled with a concern about lower natural gas storage, contributed to escalating fuel costs, which have exceeded the original budget. Furthermore, higher load growth due to warmer than normal weather also led to additional fuel purchases. The original fuel budget for fiscal year 22 assumes sales of 3.184 million megawatt hours with an average fuel cost of $38.38 per megawatt hour, while the current projections indicate utilities load will be 4.6% higher at 3.33 million megawatt hours with an annual fuel cost of $54. As we near the end of the fiscal year, we need to true up our fuel budget to what we anticipate as a final expenditure of approximately $180 million. Therefore, it's requested that the City Commission authorize an appropriation and increase in estimated revenues of $57,606,441 related to the realized fuel expenditure increases and related revenues for fiscal year 22. The budget is requested to be provided by the unappropriated surplus of Lakeland Electric's operating fund.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
And a second. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussion or questions by the audience?
Bill, I have one little question, if I may. You know, I know it's tough times for everyone, and what is the protocol if people do not pay their electric bill? Is there a grace period of some sort for, is it 30 days, 60 days, 10 days before the power actually gets turned off?
We have an assortment of ways to address those things. If they call in to the customer service department and explain the scenarios, they can there's different alternatives depending on the circumstances.
Back on right now.
Anything beyond that? Okay. So that's available, and that information is also available on our website.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Anybody? Yes. If you come on down to the mic, sir, if you have one. You have to come to the mic, and we'll be happy to answer the question.
The question's about the coal plant.
Yeah, I guess, but just 1 second, sir. You can have a seat. That doesn't relate to this particular need, so we'll talk about that in a minute. And the coal plant is being dismantled, which was the question currently. But this relates only to the reappropriation of these funds for budget purposes out of the unappropriated surplus. Any other questions or comments from the audience on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. Thank you. And Commissioner McCarley, you have an item?
No,
Okay.
no.
Utility. We want to go to item 8B1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is proposed resolution number 22-044, a resolution relating to the electric utility, establishing the environmental compliance cost charge for all customer classes for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2022, repealing Resolution 5714, making findings, providing an effective date.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
And the second, okay. Commissioner McLeod on the second. Discussion by commissioners. Any discussion or questions by the audience? All right, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye.
Okay, unanimously passes. That brings us to item C1.
Good afternoon, or good morning, I should say still.
You just were anticipating.
Almost.
Good morning. Ramona Siriani from the City Attorney's Office. The first item that we have is a change order with Chara LLC. This is related to an agreement that the Commission previously approved back in June of 2022 for the removal of solids from the processed water ponds that serviced Unit 3. The purpose of the removal was to complete the pre-closure activities in the byproduct storage area in compliance with EPA's coal combustion residual rule. The total cost of that removal was $1,082,633. However, as the project commenced and during the course of that, it was determined that there were an additional 2 feet of soil around a section of the railroad tracks that also required removal, and that removal would then, the soil would then be placed in the byproduct storage area as well. So pursuant to the change order, the scope of work will include stripping of those slopes, that's 2 feet adjacent to the railroad tracks, and that is comprised of approximately 20,900 cubic yards of material that will be moved. And also the final aspect of the project would include stabilizing the slopes by seeding those slopes. The total cost associated with the change order for the work is $358,861. That is included in Lakeland Electric's FY22 budget, and this did receive favorable recommendation from the Utility Committee on Friday's meeting.
Move approval.
Motion to approve in a second.
Second.
All right, Commissioner McCarley, and discussion by commissioners. This picks up those areas that were missed earlier on this, on that as discussed. Any discussion or questions by the audience? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. Item 2.
The second item is an agreement with Air Centers of Florida. This is for instrument air equipment for the Macintosh Rice project. The equipment includes 2 rotary air compressors, 2 twin tower heated air dryers, and also 2 storage tanks, 1 wet and 1 dry, to promote continuous source of clean air for the engines, for the operation, control, and protection of those engines. In May, the city's purchasing department issued an invitation to bid. We received 3 responses to those bids. 1 was deemed non-responsive because it did not meet the requirements of the bid specifications. And we had 2 other bidders submit bids. Atlas Copco Compressors LLC was the lowest bid. However, in looking at the price and reviewing the bid, it contained technical exceptions that actually would have increased their total bid, and it would have extended the lead time for services. So the city staff selected Air Centers of Florida, Inc. at a cost of $342,080 with their bid. However, in the process of reviewing that bid, it was determined that this particular contractor could actually offer those air compressors, smaller air compressors, at a lower cost. And so the total cost is actually $334,971. That would be included in Lakeland Electric's budget for the Rice project that was previously approved through the issuance of the bond funding.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second by Commissioner McLeod, and discussion by commissioners. Or questions? Any discussion by the audience or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. And item number 3.
Third item that we have is an agreement with Technology International. This is for the procurement of 2 dry type station service transformers for the Macintosh Rice project as well. These transformers are required to support the 6 engine generators, and each of which could carry the load for the Rice plant. In May, the city's purchasing department issued an invitation to bid. We received two responses to the bids. Upon evaluation, Technology International was selected as the most responsible bidder with the lowest price. Upon approval by the commission, they'll commence the design and manufacturing of the transformers. They're scheduled to be delivered in June of 2023, and then they will be installed by another contractor, which will be procured through the competitive process that will be brought back before the commission for approval. However, when we went through these with staff and also with some input from our consulting engineer, Sargent and Lundy, there were some price increases from suppliers during the negotiation process, which actually increased the bid before we finalized an agreement. So the total initial bid price is now $338,000. That also is included in Lakeland Electric's RICE project budget and was approved through the issuance of bond funding. But I would note that additional cost for supply, that increased the cost because of from suppliers is still lower than the other bidder that submitted a bid.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second, and discussion by commissioners. Any discussion or questions by the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. The last item.
The last item we have is an agreement with Zabit Engine Services. This is for the procurement of an emergency diesel generator for the RICE project. The generator has the fuel capacity of being able to operate for a 24-hour period, and also will provide backup power during power outages, and also will enable the RICE engines to have the ability to start without powering on the system. In May, the city's purchasing department issued an invitation to bid seeking qualified contractors for the design, manufacturing, furnishing, assembly, and delivery of the emergency diesel generator. We received 3 responses to that. Zabit it was selected as the most responsible bidder with the lowest price. Upon your approval, the delivery of the generator would be in June 2023, and then it'll be installed once it's delivered by another contractor that will be competitively procured and brought back to the commission for approval for that portion of the work. Zabit will perform all the services in accordance with the bid specs issued. We also went back through, and Sargent and Lundy, our consulting engineer for the RICE project, did make a recommendation that an optional fire detection system should be added to the base bid price, and that was an additional cost of $20,115, which brings the total adjusted cost of the work to $261,764.38. This is also included in Lakeland Electric's budget for the RICE project, which was funded through the bond issuance. That was approved by the City Commission as well.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Discussion by commissioners. Commissioner Madden.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ramona. 2 questions. One was the life cycle on the diesel generator. And then the second question was, people kind of moving away from diesel, just wanting to know, what we're paying for how long. Certainly it seems to be fine, for right now, but just going into the future, what's the best practice with regard to a cleaner generator?
I'm going to let David Holdner address the life cycle.
David Holdner, project manager for the RICE plant. Life cycle, this machine will last the life of the plant with proper maintenance. According to the RICE rules, there's maintenance that we have to perform on it, oil changes, testing, things like that. And, with proper cycling, maintenance that we do on it, where we'll run it once a month to make sure it's viable, and it should last the life of the plant.
So how long?
30 years.
It's barely used.
No.
I mean,
It's not used
you're
often.
not going to use often.
That's correct. We're going to run it more for testing than we are going to run it for the need. Just like most generators at households.
And that comment with respect, is your concern the fuel source as well?
Yeah. I just, want to compare the investment on a 30-year life cycle product that we don't use much, that's kind of going in the direction of diesel when we're trying to go a different direction.
Yeah, the nice thing about the diesel is you can store it there and you can leave it there, and it's not impacted by any kind of effects of, a hurricane or something like that, because it's there all on one side. It's a packaged system. You can keep fueled up. You can fuel it up more readily than you can if, you can't run and go get natural gas out there. For us, the biggest bang for the buck is that by having this machine, we'll be able to keep the equipment ready to start. So that way when, let's say after a hurricane or something, when the lines are restored, we can actually start up and start supplying the city of Lakeland customers power.
So what would you say the alternatives are going forward for this kind of generation?
The biggest problem that we have is that even though these engines will produce 120 megawatts, you need to get your big generators online, and you need to have a power source that can bring those big generators online. And by powering up the smaller plant here, we can power up the grid, we can power up the systems that we need to do to bring that other unit online, to have that base load generation available for that reliable power source. Without that, we're relying on others. We already do have some black start generators, but they're a little bit smaller. The question is whether or not we would be indeed able to start up the plant with those smaller ones. And so it would be waiting for one of our other members of the power pool to supply us electricity, so that way we could get the other plants up.
So would you say this is one of the things that the Department of Energy is looking for, demonstration projects for backup generation using like a green hydrogen or something cleaner?
Not really. This is more NERC and FERC related. It's more for supporting the reliability of the grid and supporting it that way, Ms. Mann.
Seems like if it was for the reliability of the grid that they'd be looking at other options. So you don't think there's any other option to a diesel generator right now for backup generation if in fact you had an emergency?
Not for what this here is serving. This is serving where, for some odd reason, the substation, so we're going to connect to the Tenorock sub. For some reason, the Tenorock sub is de-energized. And so what we want to do is the purpose of this generator will be to keep our batteries charged, to keep our control system operational, to maintain the plant itself. So that way, when we do have the ability to generate, we can come back online right away. Okay, you couldn't go to something like a renewable because, we already have batteries for storage, but that's only a limited time. Your window to use those batteries to restart the plant is somewhere around 5-6 hours to start the plant if you did not have a diesel generator. And
what would you think about a fuel cell?
Fuel cell would be great. The thing is that from a technology standpoint, I haven't even looked into it as far as what the viability would be for the amount of power that we need, because this is like 0.5 megawatt of energy. I just don't know what's out there right now. It wasn't an option that we had researched.
Well, it's not time sensitive, but since this is a 30-year product, I would like at some point just to hear what our options are like with regard to a fuel cell in the future for some kind of backup generation.
Oh, I'm all for that,
How
absolutely.
big it would need to be, how much they cost, just so I would have a perspective.
Yep, we can definitely look at that.
Thank you.
Cost and green effectiveness. Right. Okay, other questions or comments? All right, any from the audience at all? Right, seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. Thank you very much. That brings us to the audience portion of our meeting, and you have 5 minutes to make a comment if anyone from the audience would like to speak. I'm sorry, 3 minutes. I apologize. It says 5, but it needs to be 3 for audience. 3 for audience.
At the end.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Michael Griffin, and I live in Don Heights. And we got lots of safety issues out there that I can't get addressed by nobody. I've tried and tried through the city of Lakeland and get help. Been trying to get a street light out there for like 7 years now. We're the only subdivision in whole Polk County that got a street light at the entrance.
And what address is this?
It's Don Heights and Main Avenue.
Okay.
I've called and asked for a street light study be run. That one, and I had to go in the hospital. The reason I asked for that, I like to run over a woman pushing baby carriage 11 o'clock at night. since I called on the street light 9 more months ago, there's been a death, 2 injuries, and 4 people in the ditch at that one intersection there. I also called risk management with the city of Lakeland, asking if they could slow the city trucks coming in and out of that project because the road is about 50 foot coming out of the industrial area there. And I was told, I ain't got time to talk to you, when I finally did reach the gentleman. So then I called and asked if they could help with getting some hydrants, water hydrants in place. I also called and asked if they could put some street lighting in. I've got the only street light out there I'll pay for. But the thing is, we got kids out there. We got a home back there with child molesters in it. And they want the children to go stand in the dark 2 blocks from where they all live. And I also asked if the city of Lakeland could turn the light around at the trash company because it blinds everybody coming down the road at night. That's why people running off in the ditch. I never could get help on that either. But the trucks coming in and out of there are wide open, and some of them get killed there. When I called and talked to the lady in Bartow, she never responded back. Since then, there have been a death and 2 injuries there. And also, we got a problem with the water company out there. They pumping clay. I got clay coming out of my water and can't get nobody to help me on it. You can talk to anybody in that community out there, stop at any house, and see how they like their water company. They're out-of-state company. They won't even give you a number on their bill to call if you do have an emergency.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, some of that I could not quite hear. Was it Main Avenue and where?
M-A-I-N-E, Main.
Main and Dawn?
Dawn Heights.
Dawn Heights?
Yes, sir, they're an industrial project right there, and everybody coming out there wide open.
And is that in city limits, sir?
Sorry?
No.
Is that in the city limits?
No.
No.
That's why I called Bartow on it too, and I don't know how many people from the city of Lakeland I've talked to trying to get help because she brought up the issue about kids' safety. And that's a big problem in there. There are lots of kids in there, and the only light in the whole place is one I'm paying for.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. We'll dig into it.
Yes, sir, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And also, I've been living in the same place for 15 years. Me and my wife, she went in the hospital for a leg clot. Spent 30 days there. I went in the day after she was released. We thinking our bill was paid. One of us had paid it. In 15 years, we never missed a payment. And then I got a letter demanding I put extra money in the account of $400 for the city of Lakeland Electric. I call that a disgrace to send somebody out a letter that always paid their bills.
All right. Someone will meet with you out in the hallway on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I
thank you very
appreciate
much.
that.
All right.
And how do if I need help, when you call and try to get help, you never get through to nobody?
Well, I can't answer that for everyone.
Yes, sir.
But I would tell you that if you don't get help, this is a way you can bring attention.
But that's the reason I'm here, because
Yes, sir.
I've tried every way I know to try to get help. And I think the kids in that community are in danger.
Thank you for your caring for that.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just based on, I think, the location, it's probably mostly serviced by the county, but we can certainly here at the City of Lakeland coordinate with our peers there at the county to try to provide some information.
Like the light at the garbage company there have been 4 cars off in the ditch because you can't see. It's blinding you coming down the road at night. Well, I called and asked if they could turn it around to their lot, but
Okay. Got the scope.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Any other audience comments? Yes, sir, please just, either one's fine. Please just state your name, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Terry Coney, President, NAAC Lakeland Branch. And I'll try not to use all my time, but just real quick, I'd like to request that you look at your method for selecting the interim city commissioner, maybe come up with a modification. And I know there was an election last year where it was decided to get rid of special elections, and we're going through that process with Commissioner Walker. Now, no one, when they resign the office and because they're going to run for another office, anticipates that they do that thinking that they're going to lose. But it happens. You're only going to have one winner. And with the process that you came up with as far as people in a particular district applying for the position, they were applying in good faith. But once Commissioner Walker lost, I guess he was asked whether he would be willing to come back. And he chose to do that, or it's in the process of probably going to happen, probably 99.9% of the chance it's going to happen. And then that just kind of pushes up other applicants aside. So if you come up with a modification where by law that commissioner doesn't have the opportunity to rescind his resignation, but it appears that what you're doing now is you, as a commission, you ask him, does he want to come back? So what you're doing, you're basically giving him first right of refusal. So if you're going to do that, don't ask for applicants until that commissioner decides to either come back or not come back. So, you know, that it's only fair to the people that apply, because right now they put in the applications, but they're not going to get an interview. I mean, several of you have already publicly said if Commissioner Walker wants to come back, he can come back. You know, there's obviously a comfort level of working with him. He's been here on the commission for 13 years, so I think everybody appreciates the service that he's put in. But if you have a procedure where you have applicants apply, and then you don't even give them the opportunity to go through the full process, the optics are just bad. So I just ask you to relook at your process, or modify it somewhat. Thank you. And again, we're not saying anything was done illegal because you went through the process with the city attorney. Thank you.
However you want to walk through the process of this?
Well, I mean, the process is in order to run for another office, state law requires a sitting public official to resign from their current position, and state law requires that resignation be irrevocable. It can have a delayed effective date, and that's the case with Commissioner Walker. His effective date of resignation is November 7th. But the courts have interpreted that statute in a certain way, and what they have found, and in particular the Second District Court of Appeal, which is the controlling jurisdiction for Lakeland, they have found that although the resign and run statute, as it is called, means that the resigning officer does not have the right to reclaim their seat, it does not tie the hands of the appointing authority, in this case the city commission, from appointing that commissioner to serve out the remaining portion of their term. So that's the position that we're in right now, is that there is that option to the city commission to reappoint Commissioner Walker to serve out the remaining portion of his term.
And this was, for the record, because I just think chronologically it's important to know, not something we knew until post primary. In terms of the appellate decision, and was a function of researching it. And it's because when we had done this earlier, we had a candidate that won their seat, and so it didn't make, there wasn't a need to research it. Had we researched it earlier, you are making the assumption that he wouldn't have won anyway, and so I think we're learning in the process of this. I would certainly apologize for the fact that we didn't have this as foreknowledge going into the process when we did the 10 candidates, or the 9, I think, that signed up with that knowledge, but we didn't know. And so once known, and it was never anything that Commissioner Walker sought, he was then advised that that is a possibility if he were willing. And by the way, you know, he had to have a weekend to think about that in the first place, because there's a relief sometimes from that kind of thing. But then he also put in his name before the deadline on that Friday. So when we take a look at this particular scenario, we made the decision at our Friday meeting to keep the next meeting in place to make that decision, and it could still be another one of those candidates. I think what we heard in the Friday meeting was that if someone has been elected to a position and has served for a lot of years, and then this appellate decision exists, and they're interested, so then you really are representing what people have already chosen on a broad basis by elections to have that person be in place. And it is presumptive of us to exclude them, but it still could be excluded by vote. That wasn't, you know, we didn't take a straw vote. All we took the straw vote for was, would you want to continue to move forward without interviews? And at that point in time, we decided to do that without interviews. But there was no premeditated process in this that made this look like this, or even the knowledge of. And if there's anything I've said, you might correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. And then Commissioner Madden.
Thank you so much for sharing that perspective. So I know I did mention at the workshop or our agenda study on Friday, you know, I'm just one commissioner and I've only had one opportunity in the past where this has happened, and we did not make the charter change. You know, this was prior to the charter change where we appointed Commissioner Selvage. And I remember that very distinctly. And it was my point, you know, my perspective at the time, that when you have an elected position, I was frustrated that our county does not, our supervisor of election will not allow us to put a local election at the same time as a national election, which then delays that election for such a long period of time. To me, that was my number one frustration last time. I was like, wait a second, we have a resign to run state, that's on the state. And then we can't have a local election on at the same time as a, you know, national election that's on the supervisor of election at the county. So our hands were kind of tied as to what we were going to do, and putting a lot of disruption in the commission for our local citizens when these things occur. So then there was a workshop that occurred after we filled you know, the seat with the appointment of a prior commissioner. And at that time, you couldn't have someone who was already term limited. So we couldn't have picked Justin Troller or someone else who had already filled their, you know, appointed number of time. I was not at the workshop that we had as a commission to say, you know, this is happening again. You know, what are we going to do about this? How can we expedite the process? So then here we are now experiencing this for the first time since we had the workshop, trying to do it with the newly formed rules. I think the mayor did a good job to share. We didn't know about the resign to run, and then when you don't win, you know, how this would all work out. But I still maintain the same premise I had as a city commissioner. I hope to never be in this position to appoint a colleague. To me, I feel like that's the citizen's job. You know, this is a different job. It is not a staff position. It's not. It is where you have to run and you have to, you know, compete against other folks who put their hat in the race, and the citizens decide. And so I'm reticent to have to make any kind of appointment, but to at least appoint someone like a Don Selvage like we did last time, or a Commissioner Walker, who you know has at least been elected before by the citizens and who knows the job. Those things help me feel like that gives the citizens the best chance of not facing as much disruption. But I absolutely hear everything you have to say, and I would hope that all of those candidates who put their, you know, name in the hat, not that we've even picked our appointment yet, and I'm only one person, they could disagree and find I could be outnumbered and we could have one of the candidates. But I hope that this generated excitement about participation in the process, and that all those folks who submitted an application for the appointment would also go forward with their application to run. when it's the next election. So I hope that they're not discouraged from running and being civically engaged and being a public servant in this capacity, because I just, as one commissioner, feel like it's really the citizens who should choose and select these seats rather than us appointing, but it has been given to us to do. And so, but we need all the feedback that we can get, Mr. Coney, to make sure, because it's only our second time with this body. And it seems like neither one were perfect, because we were limited on our scope. And there again, we were limited on this scope without knowing what would happen with Commissioner Walker's election. So thank you for coming and sharing those sentiments, but I'm really hopeful that each of those candidates they will continue to be engaged and to run for that seat.
I'm very empathetic with your request, no question. Any other comments, Commissioner Music?
Yeah, I want to agree that where my frustration had been from the very beginning was trying to understand the process. How is it going to look? What is it? And I kept asking, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? And that was frustrating for me, because even though it cost a lot of money to have an election, I do stand behind the fact that, and I ran 3 times to be here. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of expense, but by doing so, at least I can sit here knowing that I was represented. I'm representing people. So I agree with you. I was uncertain because of that very thing. By appointing, you're usurping, but that's what they voted to do on that last ballot, was to take that away and to have us appoint. And I don't know. I share your frustration. I would love it to be a very simple and we're in this position now. We have to deal with it, and in the future until it gets changed again. So this may or may not be the only time we deal with it. So,
Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. There again, I didn't have the opportunity to catch all the dialogue on Friday, and obviously through our state laws, I couldn't ask anybody what happened on Friday. Of course, I was going to ask, and of course, we thought about it, got a lot of emails from different people, and invariably, Philip was elected by the people from his district, and I understood that emphatically, but I wasn't sure of if our charter addressed anything that implied they could not come back.
No, that's state law. That our charter does not address that.
So we do not address those, so is it implied in any way that they can't come back?
No.
But there was a court order that some people have challenged the system and they could come back. Is that?
That's correct. And that's made it all the way to the 2nd District Court of Appeal.
Okay.
That was the new news.
Yeah. I wasn't sure. So, but it's going to be interesting Monday, I guess. The next meeting. Okay.
Any other comments on this? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you bringing that up. Any other audience comments? Just come forward and state your name, please.
Doris Morvelli, and I have, 3 minutes this time or 5?
3.
3, okay, quickly. Just a correction here. I don't think the first time that Walker ran that he was elected by the Northwest community. He was elected by the community at large. That election was won by Clarence Greer, and a lawsuit ensued, if you all remember that. That aside, I think he should stay in his seat at least the day of resignation is November 7th. I think at that time it's unfair, and the community at large has been talking about that. I was glad to see the President NAACP mention that, simply because the community has been concerned. You have some very capable people who can serve in that capacity, who represent the Northwest community in many capacities. Second thing is that I want to just harp a little bit on the request I made earlier concerning the African American Chamber of Commerce. This has been a 2-year process. It's not something that happened just, I sent an email to you, Mayor, in May requesting to be a part of any discussion as it relates to opera dollars. So we have throughout the country, at least Southeast Economic Development, which is called the Round Table, have been discussing these dollars. Lakeland is in a unique situation in that it is the only chamber, Lakeland Chamber has been the only chamber that have been requesting OP dollars at this time, according to the regional people. And that covers South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. And no other chamber has done that at this point. So I would also submit to you a budget on Thursday per your request, and I hope that you all have an opportunity to look at what I've sent. I had to send a brief intro before being placed on the agenda today, and I did that to the city manager. So we have been working with businesses, pretty much like I received a stone face today. That's how some people feel about, coming to the chamber, and that's why this chamber was formed, so that we could serve the underserved and underrepresented. So that's what we're going to maintain to do. And I would strongly urge each of you to look at the Black Business Investment Funds out of Orlando. Our CEO is Inez Long, and the person we have been receiving technical support from, is Lamont Jackson there with BBIF. Very stable, well-funded organization, well-structured. So I would encourage each of you, before you make a decision to exclude the African American Chamber of Commerce, to please take a look there. We're going to get support from also Central Florida African American Chamber.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other comments from any member of the audience? Seeing none, Commissioner Walker, anything you'd like to share?
Yes, certainly, Mr. Mayor, thank you. If you all have not gone to have the view of what the Lakeland History and Cultural Center looks like, you're missing it.
Oh, boy.
So you got to get by there. I was thankful and grateful enough to thank God that being a part of the steering committee, as you all know, and as it was formed some 4 years ago now, and the contracting firm that we used to help support what the vision of the committee was, that those people were there and putting of course, everything inside the interior of the actual, I call somewhat the gallery of the Lakeland History and Culture Center, and it is phenomenal. I mean, you got to get by there. You got your invites, you saw. The library, of course, opens today for this renovation. The renovation of the library is beautiful. So I would encourage you all to get by there before we have the actual grand opening, which is September 29th. I think we all know about that as well. Secondly, the regional cities have their meeting tonight. I'm hoping that we'll have more than myself there tonight.
I'm scheduled to go.
Okay. And in Auburndale tonight, and of course, your new president, Vice Mayor Jolene Calabaro from Fort Pierce will be speaking tonight at the meeting. So I encourage that. We all participate in that as well. And of course, next week is League of Cities' first meeting with the legislative policy committees. They're set up for next session time for the legislative session to come about, as you all know, as we do. So I think, Commissioner McLeod, you did re-sign up for.
I did not re-sign up, and I don't think I rolled over automatically. They were clear in that email, so.
But you still got time.
There's, of course.
Great to know.
As long as you do it for the next week. Before you do it, as long as you do it for the next week. All right, well, hopefully you'll know that we have a couple of us that will be serving on those legislative policy committees in the first meeting next week. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir, very much for that update. Commissioner Music.
I'm good, thank you.
Commissioner McCarley.
Yeah, just a couple things. I would just want to commend, I'm glad Sean brought it up. The employee celebration last week was awesome. We had really missed having that, and everybody did just a wonderful job. It's a beautiful park out there, and everybody just seemed to really enjoy it. And I did not spill any beans on my white jeans. When I was serving, everyone was worried and tried to give me an apron, but I didn't spill anything. So thank you for that. And I communications team, I know everybody was involved, but they're just great event planners and did a great job. So please tell your team, Kevin, that it was so well done, along with all the other departments that helped. I am attending tomorrow the APA conference with Teresa Mayo on comprehensive planning, which I'm excited to be a panelist on. So Teresa and then Pat Steed from Central Florida Regional Planning Council and I are going to meet and talk about how we leaned up our comprehensive plan, which is exciting. It went from 4 inches thick to half an inch thick. So, and Lakeland, the city of Lakeland has been really great over the years. They've always done a remarkable job at their comprehensive planning document, and I'm excited to see other planners be educated about that, so that'll be fun. And then Sean and I were tapped to be in a class called Inside Polk County Public Schools, which we're real excited about. And it's a monthly leadership program where we're going to learn all about Polk County schools. So the comments from Commissioner Madden and from other commissioners we'll take back into that group. We had our orientation 2 weeks ago. Okay, and we didn't know we were in the same class, so that was exciting, and it's a good spectrum from across the county of people. So really excited about that. And then Constitution Day is September 17th, if y'all were wondering. Oh, yeah. And I will have a group of students in Washington, D.C. that day for Congressional Classroom. So I'll miss our September 19th meeting. I will be up there, but we'll be up there celebrating Constitution Day and learning all we can about the federal government and how quickly it moves things through the process. That was sarcasm.
Yeah. Coming from Madden.
Thank you, Mayor. So I had 3 things. One was I'm excited just to kind of get some updates and get some attention with catapulters. And one of them, Sean, I wanted to share with you and also with my colleagues is up. And Richard Young and I met and just kind of brainstormed. He actually had worked with a auto dealership, and just personally for working with auto dealerships, young people coming into that hadn't really looked at a motor before, didn't really know about how a car was made, and so onboarding new employees in the new decade of TikTok was everyone looks at a YouTube video or gets online to figure out how to do things. And so he had the idea, for his company, and he and his wife started with auto manufacturing and went through and they can create videos with the team at the business to see how they can bring people up to speed faster. And it was everything from having someone who's the expert on site looking at the motor, and showing them the parts, or just all the things that you have to task someone in City Hall with to show them how to use the copier, to just all of those things that make onboarding more difficult. And so they're actually now doing a project with Southern Glaciers, to kind of branch out from the auto, space. And it really made me think about with Polk Academy's advisory board that I serve on, one of the biggest difficulties is getting experts into the classroom, or, we all need the workforce pipeline to be developed, but yet we don't often take the time to get the industry experts into, the classrooms to be able to teach people. So with all of the different departments in Lakeland, City of Lakeland, from Parks and Recs to Lakeland Electric, I just thought, I know we're having talent wars and real competitive with price and remote work and all those things, attracting talent to the City of Lakeland, and we have younger people coming in to take over for legacy workers who have all of that institutional knowledge. So I just thought, well, I wanted to pass that along, that we have a local catapulter who's new in the business, who is making these content videos to help on onboarding, that might be something that, we could do as a pilot, or looking back at Mr. Beckham, that could be a part of our onboarding, for all kinds of things, just with the young people knowing that that's how they learn best, is by watching, and I think most all of us could look and say we've looked up how to do something on a YouTube video ourselves, and like, wow, that was surprisingly easy, rather than going to a 3-ring binder, with an instruction manual. So wanted to introduce, I'll send you a little email just to introduce you to Richard Young on that, just see if you all could brainstorm any ideas for that. And the other thing is I was able to participate in an art exhibition, as an artist myself to join with other local artists to go into our conservation lands throughout Polk County. And it's called Polk Forever, and they are, kind of working towards the referendum in November, the countywide referendum to raise, funds and awareness for our conservation lands. And, with the state, you can either get a conservation easement as a private landowner, which is, good. It still, gives you all the things, but no one is able to visit those lands. But when you go with this kind of state, collected funds, then you have a Circle B bar reserve that the public can enjoy. And I know that that has, something that we all enjoy here in 7 wetlands and places like that. So there was the first exhibit is in Winter Haven. There'll be one in Lake Wales, and then at Artifacts here in Lakeland, and just local artists going into those places. I went to Circle B, so my Palms on Parade is, from Circle B. But I thought that was kind of fun just to raise an awareness. So you can find more about it on Instagram at Polk Forever. And then the last thing I just wanted to bring out is in our conversation today about Vision Zero, really just kind of bolsters my support, for really being able to go even through the disruption of the Dixieland Road Diet. And I know that we've, it's been difficult to, have a pandemic where we're all at home and then get back on the roads and fight traffic. It has been surprising. I haven't heard as many negative things recently. I think people are kind of used to the barricades and they know that it won't be ugly forever, and can kind of visualize what it could be in the future. But really, when you think about neighbors on one side of the road having to travel across a 60, which is what that Florida could become, if you just keep expanding and expanding and get your speeds going higher and higher from I-4 all the way to Mulberry, then you do have a State Road 60 instead of a neighborhood. And so to reclaim that little section for the neighborhood and to try to really become more pedestrian and bike friendly and multimodal and to work with Citrus Connection to not have those bus stops that, I'm starting to really see the vision, even though disruption is never fun and there were certainly pinch points. And then, so I wanted to say, because of the conversation today and our goal for Vision Zero to become better, I mean, it's one thing that we don't like it, but we're not, obviously want to talk as such a bad place to live when it comes to pedestrian safety, you know what I mean? But we will hopefully get better with things like that. And then to be able to also say that the Historic Preservation Board did write a letter in support. And so I think we all got that in our email boxes. So it does seem, I don't know where we are in that, but I'm hopeful to see. I know, like, when I go to my hairdresser, try to walk there, she's like, we need a parking garage in Dixieland, so all the places can share. And then, people are like, oh, it should be on the corner of Belmar, because then they could walk down to the lake and they could go all through the neighborhood. So I think people are kind of seeing like they're closer in that neighborhood to becoming more pedestrian and bike friendly and safer, for their businesses and their homes. So those are my things.
Excellent. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. Well, I want to mention only, I don't know if Tony mentioned it or not, but at the end of the month, we have the rodeo coming up at the RP Funding Center. I know a lot of my gang is interested in, I've got to get with him and I've got to buy my tickets here before too long. That's always a lot of fun event anyway for the kids and stuff like that. And then likewise, I want to give a little shout out to a catapult participant. Ironically, it's my nephew, Clay Canning. I don't know if any of y'all know Clay, but he's been nominated by Tampa Bay Business Journal for the 2022 up and coming under 25 entrepreneurs.
Nice.
And I guess they'll have something coming out for him for too long. And I know recently Verizon sent him out to Texas for three months to some kind of school they had out there. So he had getting some really interesting experiences, and the catapult's doing its thing. Obviously, as we're seeing here today. That's all I have for today.
All right.
I'm good.
I want to do a shout out for the Lakelander magazine, if you haven't seen it this month. did a great job on local foods that are, and I mean, it's pretty remarkable. If you go through that magazine, you'll go, wow, there are some really cool places that I haven't eaten at yet that you want to go to. And so I thought it was really well done, and I just wanted to mention it because we can talk about we used to talk about not having a lot of places to eat. Those days are over. We've got lots of variety and lots of places to eat and that are non-chain places. And so I think it's worthy of slowing down and taking a look at that issue because it was assembled very well. All right. If there is no other business before us, then we are adjourned. Thank you.